Hello everyone and welcome back to our CMA Final Indirect Taxes Revision Series in 100% English. How are you all? Everything going great? Yes, ma'am. So welcome to the part 2 of this marathon series. Yesterday in part 1, we have already completed all the important terms, basically section 2 of CGST Act, whatever terms are important for our syllabus. Then we started with supply, S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. 2 zeros getting mixed become 8, section 8A, composite supply, taxable at principal rate of tax, and section 8B, mixed supply, taxable at supply attracting highest rate of GST. Then we started with charge of GST, section 9, which is levy and collection. We also have corresponding IGST Act, section number 5, which is the charging section of IGST Act. 9(1) normal levy, 9(2) high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel, petroleum crude. GST not applicable today but will be applicable from a future date when government notifies. 9(3) is RCM of goods services, 9(4) was notified real estate sector, and 9(5) was housekeeping, accommodation, transportation and restaurant. For these 4 services particularly, neither supplier nor recipient but the e-commerce operator would be liable to collect and pay GST to government. This was all that we had completed in part 1. Quickly tell me, yes, confident. Dil, aag, aag, bomb, bomb, heart, heart, fire, fire, bomb, bomb emojis in the comment section, everyone. Quickly like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe the channel, and then we shall proceed further. Yes, ma'am. This is all that we had completed. Also, we saw Section 7, Section 8 and Section 9 of IGST Act, which was interstate supply, intrastate supply and territorial waters of India. Today's target is to complete composition, registration and tax invoice credit and debit note. Chalo. Now, Section 10 says, "Uji 10 bahane karke bharenge kam tax." Section 10 says, we are going to make 10 different types of tantrums. We are going to make 10 different types of tantrums. Why? Because we want to pay less rate of taxes which are normally applicable on goods or services. So section 10 talks about 10 bahane, 10 different types of tantrums, composition, levy. Chalo, now I want you all to be super active in the comment section and give me answers. Is opting for composition levy mandatory? No, ma'am. Opting for composition levy is purely optional and voluntary, that if you want to opt for composition scheme, you may. Okay. Then who are the person who are eligible, who can opt for composition scheme? Ma'am, we need to check the aggregate turnover. Right. Then if we want to take composition under section 10(1) or 10(2), section 10(1), 10(2) is for goods and restaurant particularly. So if I want to opt for composition under 10(1), 10(2), which is for goods and restaurant, and then we have section 10(2)(a), which includes all others. So let's say I am dealing in services, or even if I want to supply goods under section 10(2)(a, it is allowed. With 10(1), 10(2), you cannot provide other services except for restaurant and goods. But in 10(2)(a, you can provide as many services, as many goods as you want. Then what is the turnover threshold limit? If you are in a special category state, what are the special category states here? See, what were the normal special category states that I have taught you? No asthma. No asthma in Uttarakhand and Jammu Kashmir are the 11 special category states. Nagaland, Assam, Sikkim, Tripura, Himachal Pradesh, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Jammu Kashmir. Now, out of these 11 special category states, you remove Himachal Pradesh, Assam and Jammu Kashmir. Out of these 11 special category states, you remove Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Assam. So, the remaining states which are Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. If you are doing business from these states, then for you to opt for composition levy under 10(1), 10(2), your turnover limit will be 75 lakh. For all the other states, including Assam, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu Kashmir, the turnover limit is going to be 1.5 crore. So if in preceding financial year, your turnover is up to 75 lakh in special states or 1.5 crore in all the other states, then you are eligible for composition scheme. Whereas section 10(2)(a) simply has a limit of 50 lakh. if you are supplying in any state or union territory, doesn't matter. Limit for 10(2)A is 50 lakh only. It is predominantly for services, because a person supplying goods would normally opt for 10(1), 10(2). But even if with services you want to supply goods here, no one will stop you, and you can still decide to supply goods under section 10(2)A. So the turnover limit simply says that 75 lakh, 1.5 crore and 50 lakh. But ma'am, question of the hour, how do we calculate aggregate turnover? It is very, very simple while calculating aggregate turnover for composition scheme particularly. While calculating aggregate turnover for composition scheme, you will include everything. Everything means all kinds of taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export, interstate supply, all the kinds of supply, be it taxable, be it exempt, be it interstate, be it intrastate, zero rated, every kind of supply forms part of aggregate turnover that you have done under one single PAN on all India basis. So I have one office in Gujarat. With a turnover of 5 lakh, one office in Maharashtra with a turnover of, let's say, 30 lakh, and one office in Tamil Nadu with a turnover of 3 lakh. So the total is going to be, my total aggregate turnover is going to be 38 lakh. So if a single person having one PAN has multiple place of businesses across India, while calculating aggregate turnover, you will have to add all the things done under same PAN, and then you calculate your aggregate turnover. So we include all kinds of taxable, exempt, export, interstate supply, whatever is happening under a single PAN, and then we check the applicable turnover. Now what they are saying here is, see, understand, in preceding financial year, anyways I have to see, let's say from FY 23-24 I want to opt for composition scheme, then of course for FY 22-23 my turnover should be up to 75 lakh, 1.5 crore or 50 lakh, whatever is applicable. But in current financial year, in FY 23-24 also, starting from 1st April, I will have to keep checking my aggregate turnover. Let's say in October 2023, my turnover exceeded 1.5 crore. Then the day on which my turnover crossed the 1.5 crore limit, from that day itself, I will be ineligible from composition scheme, and I will have to compulsorily shift to the regular scheme. So preceding financial year turnover, anyways, you have to see. Also in current year, your turnover should not exceed the threshold limit whenever you are opting for composition scheme. So what will not be included in aggregate turnover? So of course GST will never form part of the turnover, because GST can never apply on GST. So CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST says this will all not be included in aggregate turnover. Also, if I am availing any inward supply, on which I am paying tax under reverse charge mechanism, then that is my purchase. Just because I am paying tax to government doesn't mean it becomes my sale. It is purchase only, but still I am liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. These kind of purchases also will not form part of aggregate turnover. And also, if I am earning any interest or discount income purely because I have given loan, deposit or advance to someone. If I have given loan, deposit or advance to someone and I am earning any interest or discount income from it, then this kind of interest or discount is exempt under GST. See, all the other normal exempt turnovers form part of aggregate turnover. Only and only particularly this interest or discount income on loan, deposit, advance will not form part of aggregate turnover of composition scheme. So to check for applicability, whether you are eligible for composition or not, you have to check your PAN based all India turnover. And if your all India turnover is up to the specified limits, then only you can opt for composition scheme. But while making payments under composition scheme, now under composition scheme, you have to make quarterly payments only. So while making such quarterly payments, you will have to calculate your state-wise aggregate turnover. Why? Because in GST, you have to take separate registration in all the states. So each state, you will have to discharge your liability. Therefore, in each state, what turnover you have done, you will have to calculate and then discharge your liabilities. So whether you are eligible or not, to check that, you will check your PAN-wise aggregate turnover. But while making payment, you will check your state-wise aggregate turnover. And the day on which you actually become liable as a composition, from that date only you have to make these kind of payments. Let's say I started my business on 1st April 2024. But because I started on this day, my turnover is 0 on this day, then my turnover crossed 20 lakh. Let's assume 20 lakh is my registration limit. So my turnover crossed 20 lakh on 10 July 2024. Therefore, I took registration as a composition person on 10 July 24 only. Then whatever is the period from 1st April to 10 July, on this no payment I have to make. This will be calculated in my aggregate turnover limit, of course. But because I was not registered only at that point of time, no need to pay tax under composition scheme for this period. So we will say you have to check the eligibility pan wise for entire year. But while making the payment, you will only see your state wise turnover. That too from the date on which you have actually become liable as a composition person. Alright, ma'am. Understood everyone? Say yes or no. So the definition of composition person simply says that the composition person, it is a voluntary optional kind of scheme where you have to file only one return for entire financial year, which is GSTR 4. Only one return you will file for entire financial year, which is GSTR 4. Chalo, in the comment section, tell me the due date to file GSTR 4. Ma'am, it is 30 April after the end of financial year. So for FY 24-25, I will file my GSTR 4 till 30 April 2025. So only one return I have to file GSTR for 30 April. There was also provision with respect to annual return. But as of now, it is not applicable because anyways, one return is only filed for entire year GSTR 4. Then no need to file annual return. Law has a provision of annual return, GSTR 9. But the due date is 31 December as it is applicable for all the normal annual returns. But as of now, you are not required to file those return as a composition person because anyways, you are filing only one return, which is GSTR 4. But payment you have to make on a quarterly basis. Payment you have to make on a quarterly basis under CMP 08. So you will file a form named as CMP 08. It is not a return. The return is only one, which is GSTR 4. But payment you will have to make 4 times a year, quarterly payments under CMP 08. Tell me the due date to make such payment. Chalo, quickly in the comment section. Like the due date for GSTR 4 is 30 April, the due date for CMP 0 is 18th of the month succeeding the quarter, which means for Jan, Feb, March quarter, I will file my CMP 08 by 18th April. For April, May, June, 18th July. So after the quarter ends, whichever month comes in that month by 18th, you will have to pay the amounts under CMP 08, and after the entire financial year closes, you will file a GSTR 4. It is not 20, it is 18. Is it 20? No, it is 18. So 20th of the month succeeding the quarter, 30 April, and we also have provisions of annual return. But as of now, practically, they are not applicable. So these are the benefits of taking composition scheme, that my compliance burden would reduce significantly. Looking at the turnover limit, if I want to opt for composition under 10.1, 10.2, which is only for goods and restaurant, no other service, only and only for goods and restaurant, then in that case, if I am from special category state, then the turnover limit is 75 lakh. From all other states, it is 1.5 CR, and if it is 10.2A, then the turnover limit is 50 lakh. Okay, ma'am. You said we have to pay less taxes. Then, ma'am, how much less taxes? So, if you are a manufacturer of goods, then you have to pay 1% of your total turnover. If you are manufacturer of goods, then 1% of total turnover. If you are others means basically you are a trader, wholesaler, retailer, stockist, anything but not manufacturer of goods, then it is again going to be 1% only, but of taxable turnover, not of total turnover. Then we have, if you are supplying services for restaurant, so these all three are for 10.1 and 10.2. So for restaurant, you have to pay 5% of your total turnover, and if you are opting for composition scheme under section 10.2A, then you have to pay 6% of your turnover. These are the taxes that you have to pay, and you cannot collect these taxes from your customer. These taxes you have to pay as a composition person out of your own pocket, always using your cash ledger. You cannot avail any ITC. A composition person while making purchases is ineligible for all kind of ITC, not a single rupee ITC a composition person can avail. Composition person, because will never have any ITC, therefore all these amounts that are required to be paid will have to be paid out of own pocket through cash ledger to government, and you cannot collect these amounts from customers. Because you cannot collect these amounts from customers, you cannot issue a tax invoice, because while issuing a tax invoice you collect tax from customer. So what we are going to issue will be known as bill of supply. A composition person while making supplies will issue a document named as bill of supply, on which it will give a declaration that I am a composition taxable person not eligible to collect taxes. Right, ma'am? Sure. So if you are taking new registration, while filing your registration application, you will say I want to be a composition person, and your effective date of registration automatically becomes your effective date of becoming a composition person. If you are already a regular person but your turnover is always below the threshold limits for composition, you now want to shift to composition scheme. In that case, you cannot shift in middle of the year. You cannot shift from regular to compo in middle of the year. New registration you can take anytime. So if you want to shift from regular to compo, it is possible only on the commencement of financial year, which means before 1st April. Before start of the 1st April, you will file an intimation and say to government that from next year, from 1st April, I want to shift to a composition person. So your effective date is going to be beginning of the financial year. Of course, if you are a regular person, all the ITCs were allowed to you. But now if you shift from regular to compo, you will have to reverse all the ITCs that are available to you. To reverse these ITCs, government give you 60 days time, and you have to file a form named as GST ITC 03 and reverse all your ITCs. For manufacturer, 5% of turnover. For others, 5% of taxable turnover. Restaurant, 5%. Sorry, 1%, 1%, 5%, and for services, it is 6% of turnover. But ma'am, why have you written it like 0.5, 0.5, 2.5 and 3? Why have you not written total 6%? Because understand, under composition scheme, whatever taxes you pay are always going to be C plus SGST only. Whatever taxes you pay are always going to be C plus SGST. Why? Because no interstate supply is allowed by the composition person. A composition person is not eligible. A composition person is not eligible to make any kind of interstate supply, not even a branch transfer, which means, let us say, I have one office in Gujarat with a turnover of 40 lakh. I have another office in Maharashtra with a turnover of 15 lakh. So my aggregate turnover is 55 lakh, which is less than 1.5 crore. So I can opt for composition scheme. But in this case, the Gujarat branch has to supply in Gujarat only. The Maharashtra branch has to supply in Maharashtra only. Even branch transfer interstate is not allowed. Not even 1 rupee interstate supply you can make as a composition person. But ma'am, while teaching us the aggregate turnover, you said that interstate supplies and exports will also form part of aggregate turnover. If a composition person cannot make interstate supply only, then what is the point of taking interstate supply in aggregate turnover? Understand. Once you come in a relationship, once you commit to someone, after that you cannot see any other person. No, after that you cannot cheat. But before you commit to someone, before you actually enter into a relationship, you could possibly have a past, right? So same is the case here. I want to opt for composition scheme from FY 24-25. Once I become a composition person, I cannot make an interstate supply, but I could possibly had made any interstate supply in FY 23-24, which is okay. My total turnover would still be below the threshold limit, which is fine. So here we are saying that the value of exports and interstate supplies are relevant only for determining preceding financial year turnover. Once I become a composition person, then I will not be allowed to make any kind of interstate supply. So because whatever supplies I make are always going to be intrastate only. Therefore, we are saying 0.5 plus 0.5, 2.5 plus 2.5 and 3 plus 3, which effectively means 1%, 1%, 5% and 6%. Say yes or no. Got it, everyone? Yes, ma'am. Other points, I cannot issue tax invoice. I will always have to issue a bill of supply. I will give a declaration. No ITC is allowed. Whatever tax I am paying, I have to pay out of own pocket through cash. I cannot collect from customer. It is all time pass. Also, If you are becoming composition person for one of your registration, you will have to become a composition for all of your registration under same PAN. So if I have 5 offices, one in Goa, one in Maharashtra, one in Gujarat, one in Tamil Nadu, and one in Karnataka, I have to opt for composition scheme. I have to opt for composition scheme for all the registration. It is not allowed that you be a regular person in Goa and you be a composition person in Maharashtra. No. Under same PAN, all registrations, either all have to be regular or all have to be composition. Say yes or no. Chalo, no problem, Ankit. You can always ask me any doubt that you want. You just have to connect with me via Telegram. Done, ma'am. Chalo. Now we have some persons who are not eligible to opt for composition scheme. There are some people who are not allowed to take composition scheme even if their aggregate turnover is less than 1.550 or 75. Who are these people, ma'am? First is casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. These people are anyways temporary people coming for temporary businesses. So of course they will have to take a registration as a CTP and NRTP. They cannot take registration as a composition person. Second, if you are supplying such goods or services which are not leviable to GST only, like we had told those 5 petroleum products that you go and take a nap. So high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel, petroleum crude, alcoholic liquor for human consumption, no, GST only is applicable on these kind of products. So if I am dealing in these things, I cannot opt for composition scheme. Third, already explained to you, being a composition person, I am not allowed to make any interstate supply. Being a composition person, not even branch transfer, not even exempt supply, nothing I cannot make interstate. Only and only intrastate supplies I will have to make. Right. After that, if I am a person who is supplying services through an e-commerce operator who is collecting my TCS under section 52. See, if you supply any goods or services through an e-commerce operator, then under section 52, TCS provisions apply. Earlier, you were not allowed to supply goods also and not allowed to supply services also. But now it is amended and now this provision says, if I am supplying services through an e-commerce operator, if I am supplying services through an e-commerce operator who collects my TCS, then I cannot opt for composition scheme. But if I am supplying goods through an e-commerce operator where my TCS is collected, it is okay. I can be a composition person. I will just have to fulfill a condition which says, even if I am listed on Amazon, even if I am listed on Flipkart, even if I am supplying goods through through an e-commerce operator, I cannot make an interstate supply. Because it is the very basic disqualification that a composition person can never make interstate supplies. A composition person can never make interstate supplies. Therefore, if you want to supply goods through an e-commerce operator where your TCS is collected, no problem. You can be a composition person, but do not make interstate supplies. Your TCS will be normally collected, paid to government by the e-commerce operator, and the e-commerce operator will declare all such things in GSTR 8 with respect to such supplies. So this is all okay, procedural part, that the e-commerce operator will collect your TCS, the e-commerce operator will collect your TCS and declare all of this in GSTR 8. This is normal. What is important is, even if I am listed on e-commerce operator, still I cannot make interstate supply. Only intrastate supplies are allowed. But being a supplier of service who is supplying through e-commerce operator, I cannot opt for composition scheme. Then we have manufacturers of these products. See, traders are allowed. If I am a person trading in ice cream, I can avail composition scheme. But if I am a person manufacturing ice creams, and even if my turnover is less than 51.5 or 75, whatever is applicable, still I cannot opt for composition scheme. So the manufacturer of ice cream, pan masala, aerated water, tobacco, fly ash, bricks, blocks, building bricks, earthen roofing tiles. These are all basically cement blocks, bricks and tiles. You can simply remember them as blocks, bricks and tiles. See, what is this earthen roofing tiles, etc.? If you have seen Doraemon, or any cartoon in your childhood, you would have seen these kind of roofs, right? We have these kind of roofs. on the houses, and then the cartoon characters lay on it and they do stargazing, etc. So these are known as earthen roofing tiles. Then we have those cement blocks, we have bricks. So if I am a manufacturer, of any of these things, or ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, or aerated water, even if my turnover is less than the specified threshold limit, I cannot opt for composition scheme. Understood, ma'am? Then we say, this is important for examination. What is this particular point saying? Understand here. If I am opting for composition scheme under section 10(2)(a), I can supply goods also, I can supply services also, it is all allowed and okay. But if I have opted for composition scheme under section 10(1), 10(2), then only and only goods are allowed, and only one particular service, which is restaurant, is allowed. If I want to provide any other services other than restaurant, being a composition person under 10(1), 10(2), I will not be allowed to do so. Only and only up to 10% of my preceding financial year turnover or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher. Only up to this limit I am allowed to make services. Only up to this limit I am allowed to make services. What we are saying, if you are opting for composition scheme under section 10(1), 10(2), you cannot provide other normal services other than restaurant goods. You can provide up to 10% of your preceding financial year turnover, simply the same turnover that we calculate above, excluding the interest and discount income, or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher. I'll just take 1 extra minute to explain you why. Chalo, can anyone tell me why? Why, ma'am, under section 10(2)(a) you are saying, let's say I'm a hairstylist and my turnover is only 40 lakh. Hairstylist basically is a supplier of service. I want to opt for composition scheme. I took composition scheme. Now, along with providing hairstyling services to my customers, I also started selling shampoo. Let's say Praveen. Praveen here is the hairstylist person, and he also started to trade in shampoos. Now, shampoos are goods. He started trading goods also with services. He started saying, people, hey, you use this shampoo and your hair will be just like Riddhi ma'am. Oh my God. And people started to purchase shampoo. So what happened next year? His hairstyling turnover was only 10 lakh. And shampoo turnover became 35 lakh. Still the total is below 50 only. It is okay. Under 10(2)(a), he can supply goods, absolutely no problem. But under 10(1), 10(2), let's say he is dealing in shampoos only already. Plus now he want to start providing hairstyling services. Can he do so? Yes, but ma'am, up to 10% of preceding financial year turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher, and aggregate of everything should be up to 75 lakh or 1.5, which is the main limit. Can anyone tell me why? Yes, Praveen, you can go for the classes. Doesn't matter. You'll just have to see the additional amendments. Why, ma'am? Because the tax rate applicable under section 10(2)(a) is 6%, whereas the tax rate applicable under 10(1) and 10(2) is only 1%. So what everyone would want to come under 10(1), 10(2) and pay 1% to GST, 1% GST to government, but that is only for goods, only and only for goods, right? Therefore, we are not allowing you to do services here. Here, even if you are paying 6% and supplying goods, government is more than happy. What problem government will have? It is because the rate of taxes on services is higher here, which is 6%, but the rate is only 1% under 10(1), 10(2). Therefore, government is saying that with 10(1), 10(2), only some services can be provided. Only some services can be provided, which are 10% of your preceding financial year turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. If you want to provide more services, then please go under 10(2)(a) and pay 6% taxes. Say yes or no. Understood? Yes. And being a supplier of goods, you can supply through e-commerce operator, but supplier of service cannot supply through e-commerce operator if you want to be a composition person. Just make sure you are not doing any interstate supply. If due to any reason you have opted for composition scheme, but proper officer feels you are ineligible. Let's say proper officer thinks that your turnover has exceeded 1.5 CR or you are making interstate supply or anything like that. Then proper officer can issue you a show cause notice saying that You please show us the cause. You please show us the cause that why are you eligible in compo, because we think you are ineligible. We want to kick you out of composition scheme. Then in that case, you will have a 15 days time to reply to this notice. No need to remember the notice forms number, etc. Anything. Nothing you are required to remember. So in this case, officer will issue you a show cause notice asking why are you eligible, because we think you are ineligible. You will reply within 15 days. Now, based on your reply, final decision will be taken by the officer within next 30 days from your reply whether you are actually eligible or not. If they feel you are ineligible, they will kick you out of composition scheme. Composition scheme will be denied to you, and now you will be required to pay all the differential taxes. Let's say whatever goods I supply normally are taxable at 18% GST. I was just paying 1% under composition scheme. Then this differential 17%, now I will have to pay along with penalty. The provisions of section 73, 74 can also be invoked. Demand orders, etc. can be issued to me. Got it. Which ultimately comes to the last point of the chapter, which says, ma'am, we understood how to go in composition scheme. If we are taking new registration, while applying only, we will say we want to be a compo. If we are already registered, we can still, from the beginning of financial year, convert ourselves from regular to compo. But ma'am, I want to come out of compo. From compo, I want to become regular. Then see, one is a very genuine case. My turnover only exceeded 1.5 CR, 50 lakh or 75 lakh, which means I am no more eligible. I want to do some interstate supplies. If anything like that is happening, I want to supply through e-commerce operator, interstate, anything like that, which means I cease to satisfy the conditions. Then the day on which I cease to satisfy the condition, let's say today my turnover exceeded 1.5 CR, then within 7 days from here, I will file an intimation to the officer saying that, let's say on 20 December 25, my turnover exceeded 1.5 CR. Then within 7 days from here, I will intimate to government that on this day only I had become ineligible. Therefore, from this date only, the date you mention in the intimation, you become ineligible in compo. You are opted out, and now you are a regular registered person. Ma'am, everything was okay only. I was making intrastate supplies, my turnover was also less, but I voluntarily don't want to be a composition person. Let's say I want to avail ITCs on my purchases. I voluntarily want to come out of the composition scheme. No problem. The day on which you want to come out of the composition scheme, before that, you can file an intimation saying that from this date, I want to be a regular person. And last point is denial by tax authorities here. You were registered, you wanted to be a composition person, but the proper officer is kicking you out of composition scheme. Then whatever date he mentions that this is your date of contravention according to order, from that date you will be kicked out of composition scheme, and now you become a regular person, right? Now, when you shifted from regular to compo, you had to reverse your ITCs. And similarly, if you are becoming regular from compo, like regular to compo or compo to regular, then here of course I will have to avail ITC, because a composition person cannot take ITCs, but a regular person can take ITCs. So here to avail ITC, government gives me 30 days time where I have to file GST ITC 01. Here I have to file GST ITC 03, and I have 60 days time to reverse all the ITCs available with me with respect to input or capital goods. Say yes or no. So if I am converting from regular to compo, I reverse ITC within 60 days. If I am converting from compo to regular, I avail ITC within 30 days from the date of opting out of composition scheme. And these are the form numbers which you are not required to remember, only for knowledge purpose: ITC 03 and ITC 01. Exactly half an hour and we complete entire composition levy. Quickly give me a lot of energy by dropping dil dil, aag aag, bomb bomb emojis in the comment section, and then we start with registration under GST. Well, are you all enjoying? Say yes or no. Why have you all not liked the video yet? Concurrent views are more and likes are less. What are you doing, guys? Come on, chalo, like the video, then we start with registration. Chalo, chalo, chalo. Just have to hit the like button. What does it even take? Nothing. Shalom, I'm done. Now let us start with the next chapter, which is registration under GST. Now before starting this chapter, we'll just quickly go through the section numbers that we have to see. We make 3 pairs here. 22, 23, 24 is one block. Then 25, 26, 27 is another block. 28, 29 and 30. So 9 sections total we have to study in the chapter of registration. Sure. Section 22 says that person liable for registration. 22 says that person liable for registration. See, how to remember this? 2 to 22. You are earning double. 2 to 22. You are earning double. Chalo re everyone, shout out loud with me. I'll just take a picture of the comment section. It's looking so pretty beautiful with all dil agag bomb emojis. Chalo. 2 to 22, you are earning double. You are a person earning double. Of course, you will have to take registration. No. So, you become liable for registration. 23 says, running. Hey, no. Wait. Why liable? Not liable. So, 22 says, liable for registration. 23 says, not liable for registration. And 24 says, hey, shut up. What is this liable, not liable going on? Shut up and take compulsory registration under GST. 2 to 22, you are earning double. Therefore, you have to take registration. 23 ran and came. No, wait. Not liable for registration. And 24 said, what is this nonsense going on? Shut up and take compulsory registration. This is block number 1. Then 25 said, okay, understood. We have to take registration, but how? At least tell us the procedure to take registration. So the entire procedure of taking registration under GST comes in section 25. Oh my God. This big procedure, मैं तो थक गई. I am tired. Will government tell us to do this procedure twice or thrice? Like, will government tell us to do this procedure under CGST Act, SGST Act, IGST Act, UTGST Act separately? The answer is no. So we say deemed registration. You take registration in one act and you are deemed registered in all the other GST acts respectively. Right. Then section 27 talks about casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. This is block number 2. And finally, 28, 29, 30 we study together, which are amendment, cancellation and revocation of cancellation. After taking all the registrations, I thought after doing all the procedures and everything, now I want to amend something. Now I want to change my mobile number, my address, my email ID, anything like that. So it is amendment. Hey, kids do all of these amendments. We will simply straight away cancel the registration. What to do amendment? We will simply cancel the registration. Uima, registration got cancelled. Uima, registration got cancelled. Now we want to revoke the cancellation. So section 30 talks about revocation of cancellation. Chalo. I am teaching you like we are in a nursery class. I am teaching you exactly same like we are a nursery class, but this is the best possible way to remember all the section numbers, which will give you superb confidence. One last time, everyone with me. 2 to 22, you are earning double. Person liable for registration. 22 said liable, 23 said not liable, 24 said, hey, you shut up and take compulsory registration under GST. 25 said, okay, I will take, but you please tell me the procedure to take registration. Oh my God, this big procedure, I cannot do it twice. Therefore, we will take deemed registration. 27 says, okay, casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. And then 28, 29, 30 is amendment, cancellation. Uima, registration got cancelled. So finally, we will go for revocation of cancellation. Now, one by one, we start with every single section. Chalo. This is all time pass. That registration is PAN based. Of course, to take registration under GST, you need to have a PAN number. For every state, you will have to take a registration. Not for every act, because we have section 26 deemed registration. You take registration only in SGST Act. You will be automatically registered in CGST, SGST, IGST, all the acts. So single registration tax wise. But for every state, you will have to take a separate registration. for whichever state you have a place of business. In all of those states, one registration is compulsory, mandatory. If you have more than one place of business in a single state and you want to take more than one registration voluntarily, please you may proceed, government cannot deny you. So they are saying one registration is required for every state UT wherever I have a place of business. However, if I voluntarily want to take separate registration in a same state, I can still do so. Ma'am, what do you mean by place of business? That if I have a place of business in one state, I will have to take registration there. Very simple. Listen to me very carefully. Place of business means a place from where you are doing business. Place of business means a place from where you are doing business. What is this time pass? This is the actual bare act definition. Place of business includes a place from where business is ordinarily carried on. Now it could be your office, your warehouse, your godown, your factory, your office, your representational office, a place where you are maintaining your books of accounts, a place where from where your representative or your agent is carrying out the business. Basically any place from where you are doing something related to your business, that becomes a place of business. So in whichever state you have a place of business, in all those states you will have to take compulsory registration. Every person that takes a registration becomes a registered person, except for UIN holders. UIN holders we will study in this chapter only, who are they and why do they take registration. But yeah, they are not considered as registered person, means no compliance burden will come on them. Otherwise than that, every person, whether actually he was liable or not liable, doesn't matter. Once he has taken registration, no, he becomes a registered person. But taxable person, see, all registered person are automatically taxable person. All registered person are automatically taxable person, and plus a person who is liable but still not taken registration is also a taxable person. We'll take two examples. Let's say Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A has an aggregate turnover of 5 lakh. Mr. B has an aggregate turnover of 5 crore. This person has taken voluntary registration under GST even though he was not liable. This person, in spite of being liable, has not taken voluntary registration. Then they are both taxable persons. See, registered person only Mr. A, because the one who is registered only becomes registered person. Because he is not registered, he cannot be called as a registered person. But if I talk about taxable person, then every registered person is automatically a taxable person. Plus a person who is liable but not taken registration is also a taxable person. So it can never happen that someone is registered but not taxable, because every registered is automatically taxable, but every taxable is not registered. Got it? Yes, ma'am. So we will say that if a person is unregistered but threshold limit has been crossed, he is also taxable. Or someone is below threshold limit but taken voluntary registration, he will also be known as a taxable person. Got it, ma'am. Now starting with 22, you are earning double. Person liable for registration. Chalo. First of all, section 22(1). Section 22(1) says that every person who crosses the aggregate turnover, if the aggregate turnover of any person on a pan-India basis, so turnover that you are doing from all your place of businesses across India, you have to take total. So the total aggregate turnover pan-India basis, if crosses the threshold limit given under section 22, then you will have to take compulsory registration. Ma'am, what is the definition of aggregate turnover? The same definition that we studied in composition chapter, except for one difference. So the aggregate turnover of registration also says that you include all kind of taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export, interstate supply, everything that is done on pan-India basis. Everything that is done on pan-India basis will form part of your aggregate turnover. GST will never form part of your aggregate turnover. If you are purchasing something on which you are paying RCM, that will also not form part of your aggregate turnover. That is all. This is the definition of aggregate turnover, which means the only difference is if I am earning any interest or discount income on loan deposit advance, it will form part of aggregate turnover under registration, but it will not form part of aggregate turnover under composition. This is the only difference between aggregate turnover definition. So see, here I will say aggregate turnover means everything, taxable, exempt, export, interstate, whatever I am doing on a same all India pan basis. which will exclude GST and inward supply payable under RCM, which means interest income also forms part of aggregate turnover under compositions, under registration chapter, but under composition chapter, interest income will not form part of aggregate turnover. Right, ma'am? Now here we are simply saying that if your aggregate turnover exceeds the threshold limit, then you have to take compulsory registration. But in all the states from where you are making taxable supplies, chalo, first of all, we'll remember a chart. This chart is a chit page. Chit page as we call it, or a cheat page as we call it. Why, ma'am? If you are able to remember this chart, very good. If you are not able to remember this chart, what you're going to do on examination day, you will tear this page, make a chit, keep in your pocket and then go for examination, because this is that extreme important for exam. And you try out all the stunts on your own risk. Okay, chalo. Now we are saying, if you are making any taxable supply, if you are making any taxable supply from no MMT. What is no MMT, ma'am? Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. If you are making any taxable supply, if you are making any taxable supply from Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram or Tripura, then your pan-India aggregate turnover limit is only 10 lakh. So if your pan-India turnover exceeds 10 lakh, you have to take registration in all the place where you are making taxable supplies. But ma'am, no. Let's say I have one shop in Gujarat and one shop in Nagaland. From Nagaland, I am supplying only alcoholic liquor for human consumption, let us say for 15 lakh. And Gujarat, I am supplying shoes which are taxable under GST for, let us say, 10 lakh. What will be my aggregate turnover? My aggregate turnover here will be 10 plus 15, 25 lakh. But I will not be required to take registration. Why? Because the limit falls to 10 lakh only if I make taxable supplies from Nagaland. Because I am not making any taxable supplies from Nagaland. Because I am not making any taxable supplies. Alcoholic liquor is a non-taxable supply. Therefore, then I have to see what is the limit applicable to Gujarat, 40 lakh. And my registration is, my turnover is only 25. Therefore, no need to take registration. But if in this same question from Nagaland I was selling clothes for 15 lakh, then my turnover is 25 lakh, which is more than 10 lakh, which means I have to take registration in Gujarat also and I have to take registration in Nagaland also. So if you make any taxable supply, if you make any taxable supply from no MMT, which is Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, then your aggregate turnover is 10 lakh. If you are not making any taxable supply, then you check turnover based upon the normal limit of other states. Okay, ma'am. If you are making any supply, be it exempt supply, taxable supply, any kind of supply from stamp in Uttarakhand, if you are making any supply from stamp in Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Puducherry and Uttarakhand. Sikkim, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Puducherry and Uttarakhand. If you are making any supply from these states, then the applicable turnover limit is 20 lakh. Any supply. Even if I am making exempt supply from Puducherry, then also my turnover limit will be 20 lakh only. If I am making supplies from all these other states and I am a supplier of service, I am a supplier of service or I am supplying services along with goods, whatever it is, even if I am supplying slightest of the services, my aggregate turnover is going to be 20 lakh limit. But if I am supplying exclusively intrastate goods, three things. Exclusively intrastate goods. By exclusively I mean there should be no other services, only and only goods, exclusively goods, that too no interstate supply, only exclusively intrastate goods. If I am supplying, no, then my aggregate turnover limit is going to be 40 lakh rupees. Say yes or no. Are you able to remember this chart with me? I will ask you some questions also. Chalo. What is this chart saying? The chart is saying if I make any taxable supply from no MMT, then limit 10 lakh. If no taxable supply, then you check according to other states. Then stamp in Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Puducherry and Uttarakhand. Any supply limit is 20 lakh. From all the other states, if I am involved in services, then 20 lakh. Only exclusively intrastate goods, then the limit comes as 40 lakh. Okay. Now, one more thing that you have to remember is, tell me what is interest income? Goods or service? If I'm earning an interest income, is it goods or is it service? Ma'am, of course, service, because giving money and then earning interest is a service. And interest income forms part of aggregate turnover under registration chapter, right? And in India, of course, there will be no person who is not earning any interest income. So, ma'am, according to this, every single person in India is engaged with services. So, nobody will get 40 lakh benefit, right? Understood. Because here we are saying that only for goods person we give 40 lakh benefit. But interest is a service, ma'am. And every person in India would be earning interest income, which means nobody in India would ever get the 40 lakh benefit. Therefore, government said that only for this section, only for section 22. Only for section 22, if a person is earning interest or discount income by giving loan deposit advance, no problem, we consider that as goods only and that person can still avail the benefit of 40 lakh. So let us say a person is supplying shoes worth 35 lakh and earning interest income worth 2 lakh. So the total turnover remains 37 lakh, which is less than 40. Therefore, the person is not required to take registration, assuming that shoes are supplied intra-state only. Let us say a person is supplying shoes for 39 lakh and the interest income is 4 lakh. Then, ma'am, in that case, the aggregate turnover becomes 43, which is more than 40. Therefore, registration will be required. We are not saying you ignore interest. We are not saying that you ignore interest income. Interest income will form part of aggregate turnover. We are just saying that because of interest, your limit will not fall to 20, your limit will still remain 40 if all the other things are goods, because only for goods we get 40 lakh ka limit. Just because of one service which is interest, your turnover threshold will not fall to 20, it will still remain 40 only. Do not ignore interest. I repeat again, you have to calculate interest in total, but including interest will not reduce your threshold limit to 20, it will be still 40. Say yes or no. Got it, ma'am. So for section 22, we are saying that, okay, only for interest discount income, we assume as if you are supplier of goods only, no problem. And you have to take registration only and only in those states from where you are making a taxable supply. Chalo, I will ask you a question. Let us say I supply from Gujarat, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. From Gujarat, I supply clothes. From Maharashtra, I supply alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And from Tamil Nadu, and everything is intrastate. We assume everything is intrastate. So now, from Tamil Nadu, I supply shoes. Okay. My aggregate, my turnovers in all the states are 8 lakh, 28 lakh, 8 lakh, 40 lakh and 5 lakh respectively. My question to you is, what is my aggregate turnover? What will be the applicable turnover to check what will be the registration limit? And third point is whether I will be required to take registration or not. If required, in which state? I am asking you 3 questions. What is my aggregate turnover? What will be the applicable turnover? And in which state I will have to take registration, if at all I have to take. See, ma'am, to calculate aggregate turnover pan India, we first of all add everything. So 40 plus 8, 48 and plus 5, it comes to 53 lakh, right? So my aggregate turnover is 53. And ma'am, the applicable limit, because we are supplying goods only. In Gujarat, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, none of them are special category. So the applicable limit for me would be 40 lakh. Right? Clothes, alcohol and shoes. All 3 things are goods. Clothes, alcohol and shoes. All 3 things are goods. Plus, I am making only intrastate supplies, no interstate supply, which means applicable turnover limit to me would be 40 lakh. Manikanta, I hope you understood. Yes, ma'am. Therefore, I will be required to take registration, but only and only in the state of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, not in the state of Maharashtra. Tell me why? Because from Maharashtra, I am not making any taxable supply. I am only making non-taxable supply, which is alcohol from here. So to calculate limit, you include everything. To calculate limit under a same PAN, whatever you do, be it interstate, intrastate, whatever it is, you include everything, even if distinct person. Let us say one registration in Gujarat, one registration in Maharashtra, and I supply to my own branch, then also same PAN, separate registration supplied to distinct person also forms part of your aggregate turnover. Everything will form part of your aggregate turnover. But while taking registration, you will actually take registration only in that state from where you are making a taxable supply. Right, ma'am? And one more thing, let's say there's a principal who sent some goods to job worker to undertake job work on those goods. After the job work was done, the principal told the job worker to not send back the goods, but to further dispatch the goods to ultimate customer on behalf of principal. Let us assume the goods were worth 50,000 rupees. This 50,000 will be added in whose aggregate turnover? Principal has given goods to job worker to undertake job work transactions. After job work is done, the goods are directly given to customer on behalf of principal. Whose aggregate turnover it will be? Principal or job worker? Ma'am, of course it will be added in principal's turnover only. Job work is just acting as a person who is giving delivery. It is neither job worker's purchase nor job worker's sale. He is just giving the delivery on behalf of principal. So value of goods after job work, if directly supplied from job worker's premise to ultimate customer, it will always form part of aggregate turnover of principal only and not the aggregate turnover of job worker. Done, ma'am, I've explained you everything. But there are some people who even if do intrastate exclusive supply of goods, then also they cannot get 40 lakh benefit, which means for them applicable turnover limit will only be 20 lakh. If I have taken voluntary registration, I want to continue, no problem. Even if my turnover is just 1 lakh and I want to take voluntary registration, I can take, of course. We never excluded, in any example, we never excluded alcohol from aggregate turnover. When I gave the example of Gujarat and Nagaland, that time also I said Gujarat turnover 15 lakh, Nagaland turnover 15 lakh, 10 and 15, and this is alcohol and this is shoes. Then also aggregate turnover was 25 only. Thus, I don't know what is your name. You have written theirs here. So thus, in all the cases, I never excluded alcohol from aggregate turnover. You have to add this, but no need to take registration here. Got it. And here, because I am not making taxable supply from Nagaland, my limit will also not come down to 10. So my limit remains 40 because my total turnover is 25. Therefore, no need to take registration anywhere. So 3 questions always you have to ask. First, what is my aggregate turnover? Second, what is the applicable turnover? And third, if my turnover is more than applicable turnover, then I have to take registration only in those states from where I am making taxable supply. Earlier, in the first step, you do not even see whether you are doing taxable or exempt because everything will always be added in your aggregate turnover. Got it, ma'am? Chalo. If I am a person who has taken voluntary registration, guys, this is not a regular class. We are in a revision series. We have to respect that thing also. Yeah, right, ma'am. Still, I'm doing revisions into much details. Otherwise, I can finish off this entire chapter's revision in just 15 minutes. Batch students would be knowing every day before starting the lecture, we do everything, cumulative revision, and it hardly takes us 15 to 20 minutes to revise a particular chapter. But I'm going slow, taking all the points into consideration. Do not confuse revisions with regular classes. So, person opting for voluntary registration, if wants to continue, will continue irrespective of turnover. If I am liable under section 24 to take compulsory registration, there is a list of people under section 24 who have to always take compulsory registration. Then you forget the 40 lakh, 20 lakh, 10 lakh, any limit. If you have to take compulsory registration, then you will have to take compulsory registration. And plus, if you are a person who is supplying ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, bricks, blocks, or anything like that, not aerated water here. Aerated water people are disqualified in composition. Aerated water people are not disqualified here. So here we will say only suppliers of ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, fly ash, bricks, aggregates, blocks, earthen roofing tiles, etc. Even if their turnover they are making exclusively intrastate supply of goods, then also they will not get 40 lakh benefit. For them, applicable turnover limit will only be 20 lakh rupees. They will not get 40 lakh benefit. For them, aggregate turnover limit is always going to be 20 lakh. So we are saying that following people are not eligible for 40 lakh benefit. One, of course, if you have to take compulsory. Second, if you want to take voluntary, no problem. But for these people, the limit is 20 lakh only and not 40 lakh. Okay, ma'am. Even if they are doing exclusive intrastate goods, then also. Shall. We'll take two examples for more clarity. Diya Traders has one shop in Manipur, another shop in Chennai for supply of shoes. So we're making intrastate supplies of shoes. Manipur, my turnover is 7 and Chennai, my turnover is 5. So first of all, what is my aggregate turnover? First point, as we calculate, my aggregate turnover is going to be 7 plus 5, which is 12 lakh. Step number 2. Step number 2, we say, what is the applicable limit? Now, because I am making a taxable supply from no MMT, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura. Manipur is one of the special category state. Therefore, my applicable limit is going to be 10 lakh. Now, my aggregate turnover 12 is more than applicable 10. Therefore, yes, registration required. Now, in which state required? Ma'am, Manipur as well as Tamil Nadu. Both the states you are making taxable supply of shoes only. Now, because in both the states you are making taxable supply, therefore registration will be required in both the states. Say yes or no. This is how you always go about a question. What is my aggregate turnover? What is my applicable turnover? Will I have to take registration? If yes, then in which states? Only the states from where I am making taxable supplies. Got it, ma'am. Next question. Prithvi Enterprise supplies taxable goods intrastate in Maharashtra 34 lakh and a shop of alcoholic liquor in Nagaland. So first, what is my aggregate turnover? Always include everything. So 34 plus 8. 34 plus 8 is equal to 42 lakh is my aggregate turnover. Got it. What is my applicable turnover? Ma'am, applicable turnover, see, am I making any taxable supply from no MMT? Ma'am, I am making a supply from Nagaland, but it is not taxable. It is alcohol. Because it is not taxable, my turnover limit will not come down to 10. Am I making any supply from stamp in Uttarakhand? No, ma'am. No supply from stamp in Uttarakhand also. Therefore, not even 20. I am making exclusive intrastate goods supply from Maharashtra, which means my applicable limit is going to be 40 lakh. You always check according to chart only. So if in Nagaland, see in the above example, we did taxable supply from special category state. Therefore, limit fell down to 10. But here I am not making taxable supply from Nagaland. Therefore, limit will not come to 10. Then according to other states, the limit applicable is 40. So will I be required to take registration? Yes, because 42 is greater than 40. I will have to take registration. Now last point, in which state I will have to take registration? Ma'am, only the state from where you are making taxable supplies, which is Maharashtra. In Nagaland, because you are not making taxable supply, therefore only in Maharashtra I will be required to take registration. Dars, where are you? Is it now clear? Tell me. Are you still there in the stream, Dars? Tell me, is it now clear to you? Got it, ma'am. Chalo. So no registration in Nagaland, only and only I'll have to take registration in Maharashtra. This is how you always solve the question. First, while calculating aggregate turnover, add everything, all kind of sale. Then you check the applicable turnover according to chart. If applicable is less than your actual turnover, then you will say yes, registration required. And then finally you will take registration only in those states from where you are making taxable supplies. Got it, ma'am. This is a transition provision, now not applicable to you. It is simply saying that whoever was earlier liable in the VAT and service tax regimes were also liable under GST. Now it's been already, GST started in 2017. We are in 2024. So you can simply ignore this provision, transition provision. Then 22.3 and 22.4. 22.3 and 22.4 says that if I am a person transferring my business as a going concern, if I am a person transferring my business as a going concern to someone. So of course, I was a taxable person. Now I transferred my business as a going concern to someone. So that person is going to continue running my business. So of course, from the date of transfer, this person who is now taking over my business, transferee, will be liable for registration. Similarly, if two businesses are amalgamated or demerged, then from the date on which ROC, who is ROC? Registrar of Companies. The date on which Registrar of Companies issues a certificate of incorporation for the new amalgamated or demerged company, from that date itself, the new transferee becomes liable to take registration under GST. And we finish up entire section 22 here. Section 22 has 4 subsections. 22(1) says that if your aggregate turnover is greater than the applicable threshold of 10, 20 or 40, you will have to take registration, but only in those states from where you are making taxable supply. While calculating turnover, you include everything, but while taking registration, only take in that state from where you are making taxable supply. This is transition provision, so you can ignore this. 22(3) says that if you are transferring your business as a going concern, then the transferee will take registration from the date of transfer. And 22(4) talks about if there is amalgamation or demerger, then the date on which ROC issues certificate of incorporation, from this date, the new amalgamated or the demerged company will have to take registration under GST. Tell me absolutely clear with section 22. See, from this chapter, we have to study 9 sections, but majority of the times, 95% of the times, questions are only asked from section 22, 23 and 24. So if these 3 sections you are able to completely understand, you will never face any problem with registration questions. Done, ma'am. Now section 23 we will do after 24. Okay. So we first jump on to section 24. Which talks about compulsory registration. Section 24, which talks about compulsory registration, that there are some people who will always have to take compulsory registration under GST irrespective of their turnover. Whether their turnover is even 2 rupees, no, then also they will have to take registration under GST. Chalo, waiting for my batch students to give me answer. Who will take compulsory registration quickly? We have learned through mnemonic section 24, compulsory registration. Then who have to take compulsory registration under GST? Where are you all guys? Ma'am, it is I-9 creation. So people who are involved with I-9 creation have to take compulsory registration under GST. I do not write I-9 creation anywhere. This is our own mnemonic. Okay. Ma'am, I means any person who is making interstate supply will have to take compulsory registration. Even if branch transfer you are doing, no, interstate, from Gujarat to Maharashtra, my own branch I sent some goods, then also I will have to take compulsory registration. So any person doing any interstate supply will have to take compulsory registration under GST. But there are 2 exceptions to this. One is supplier of service. A supplier of service can still make interstate supply and take registration only if threshold limit of 10 lakh or 20 lakh is reached, because 40 lakh benefit is not available to service person, right? If no MMT service, then 10 lakh. Other than no MMT, any state you are providing service, then the limit is 20 lakh. So for a supplier of service, he or she can make interstate supply and take registration only if the aggregate turnover exceeds the threshold limit. But for a supplier of goods, we will say, even if 1 rupee interstate supply you have done, you have to take compulsory registration. And second is supplier of notified handicraft goods. Supplier of notified handicraft goods. Again, these are the goods which are made predominantly using hand. Little machine is okay, but more should be hand. Predominantly using hand. If you've made any handicraft goods which are then notified by government, then you will take registration only if your threshold limit of 1020 is reached. Otherwise, no need to take registration. So for these 2 people, we will check section 22 limit. But for other people who involved in interstate transaction, always compulsory registration will be required. Got it, ma'am? 9 means all the e-commerce operators liable under section 9(5), which means Ola, Uber, Zomato, Swiggy, Oyo, Trivago, Urban Clap, all of these e-commerce operators who have to collect and pay GST to government under section 9(5) will of course, so all the 9(5) e-commerce operators will take compulsory registration under GST. C means casual taxable person. C means casual taxable person. Again, we have exception to this saying that if I am a casual taxable person involved in supply of notified handicraft goods, if I am a casual taxable person who is supplying notified handicraft goods, then I will get that 10, 20, 40 lakh benefit. Otherwise than that, any person who is a casual taxable person will have to take compulsory registration under GST. Right, ma'am. R means if I am receiving inward RCM supplies. Means being a recipient, I have availed RCM supplies. Being a recipient, I have availed RCM supplies and I am a person liable to pay GST under RCM. Then I have to take compulsory registration. Let us say I am a factory registered under Factories Act. I have taken services of freight transportation from GTA, who is unregistered. Then we yesterday in the last part of the marathon only studied that factory will come under CF scrub. Now, even if it is unregistered under GST, it will first have to take registration and then discharge the liability of RCM for GTA services. So, even if I am actually not liable, but I take some service or goods under GST, which are liable for RCM, I will have to mandatorily take registration, then discharge my RCM liabilities. E means e-commerce operator. E means e-commerce operator who have to collect TCS under section 52. So e-commerce operators who have to collect TCS under section 52. Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, Zivame, Snapdeal, all of these kind of e-commerce operators who collect TCS will have to take compulsory registration. Plus all these suppliers who are supplying through these e-commerce operators also have to take compulsory registration, but there are some exceptions to this. If I am supplying service through e-commerce operator, if I am supplying service through any e-commerce operator, then in that case, I can still be unregistered up to 10 or 20, whatever is applicable limit, and not take registration. Means there is a blanket exemption given to supplier of service. That if supplier of service is supplying anything through e-commerce operator, no need to take registration unless you reach your 10 or 20 lakh threshold. Second is goods. Then ma'am, who are left? You are saying supplier of service also not required, supplier of goods also not required. Only e-commerce operator always required. But for goods, you have to satisfy certain conditions. Understand? If I am a supplier of service, supplying through e-commerce operator, then up to 10 lakh, 20 lakh, no need to take registration. But if I am a supplier of goods, no need to take registration up to 10, 20, 40 if I fulfill all these conditions. Condition number 1, no interstate supply. Okay, ma'am. So if I am an unregistered person and I want to supply through e-commerce operator, I cannot make interstate supply. I will only be allowed to make intrastate supplies. There are total 8 conditions which we will study in section 23. But the most important condition here is you cannot make interstate supply. Other conditions are you cannot make supply in more than one state. You have to have your PAN number. You will declare this PAN number on common portal. Then you will get an enrollment number. Only after getting enrollment number, you can do such supply. So there are a lot of conditions which we will see from the book. Otherwise than that, point number E says that every e-commerce operator who is liable to collect TCS will take compulsory registration. But the suppliers who are supplying through e-commerce operator, if I am a service supplier, then up to my aggregate turnover reaching the threshold limit, no need to take registration. For goods also same thing applies. But for goods, I have to fulfill certain conditions. For services, I do not have to fulfill any condition. Got it, ma'am. Then A means if I am an agent. If I am an agent of a taxable person supplying taxable goods, agent of taxable person dealing in taxable goods. So let us say I am an APMC agent, Agricultural Produce Marketing Committee agent. In that case, who is my principal? Farmer. Now farmer is also not taxable person and the agricultural producers are also exempt under GST. Then I am not required to take registration. So basically the point is not saying that every agent has to take registration. Every agent is not required to take registration. Best example is APMC commission agent, because APMC commission agent, his supplier is also not taxable. The products they are dealing in are also not taxable. Whatever commission this agent is receiving, also not taxable. Therefore, he is not required to take compulsory registration. But if there is an agent who is dealing on behalf of taxable principal for taxable goods, then that agent has to take compulsory registration under GST. Right, ma'am. Then T means, if I am a TDS deductor under section 51, input service distributor under section 20, OIDAR service provider and online money gaming. OIDAR service provider and online money gaming, and N means non-resident taxable person, NRTP. These are the people required to take compulsory registration under GST. One more time, I want you all in the comment section to give me the full form of I-9 creation. Chalo everyone. I will just wait for 1 minute and every single student in the comment section will give me full form of section 24 I-9 creation, person liable to take compulsory registration. I means a person making interstate supplies. Exception are service and notified handicraft goods. Up to whatever is actual applicable turnover, we will not take. 995 casual taxable person. One exception, notified handicraft goods. Are inward RCM supplies. Every e-commerce operator. But if I am supplying services, then blanket exception. But if I am supplier of goods, then I have to fulfill conditions. Now, what are the conditions? I cannot make interstate supply. I cannot make supply in more than one state. Let us say I have one office in Gujarat. I have one office in Gujarat and one office in Maharashtra. Both the places I make intra-state supply only. But still through e-commerce operator, I can make supply only from one state, not from more than one state. Understand this? We are saying that if I want to be unregistered, up to my aggregate turnover reaching 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakh, whatever is applicable, and I want to make supplies through e-commerce operator, I cannot make interstate supply. I cannot make even more supply in more than one state or UT. I need to have a PAN. I will declare the PAN on common portal. Common portal will give me enrollment number. I cannot have more than one enrollment number. After getting enrollment number, only I can make such kind of supplies through e-commerce operator, being an unregistered person. And later on, let's say I decide to actually take registration, then my enrollment number will be cancelled and then I will get a real registration number under GST. Then because if I will be an unregistered person then supplying through e-commerce operator, my TCS will not be collected. The e-commerce operator will only give details in GSTR 8 about whatever supplies I have made. But because I am unregistered, my TCS will not be collected as I cannot reclaim that TCS later on. So these all conditions if I fulfill, then being a supplier of goods, no need to take registration up to 10, 20, 40. But for services, there is absolutely no condition. A service provider can supply through e-commerce operator up to 10-20 lakh without taking registration. A means agent making taxable supplies on behalf of taxable person, TDS deductor, ISD, OID, AR, online money gaming, NRTP and any other person as the government may notify. Bolo, dil agak bomb, absolutely clear to everyone. Chalo, is it clear guys? Yes, ma'am. Then moving on to section 23, which says person not liable for registration. Now, section 23 says that particularly two people, one who are exclusively doing wholly exempt or non-taxable supplies. What will they do even after taking registration, because they do not have to collect GST? So here we are saying if a person, the word is important, is exclusively. Let's say I trade alcoholic liquor for human consumption worth 10 crore. And I sell clothes. I sell clothes only worth 5 lakh. My aggregate turnover will be 10 crore 5 lakh. And I will be required to take registration for clothes. So we are saying if at all it is exclusive alcohol, no other taxable goods or services involved. So the main point here is exclusively exempt or exclusively not liable to tax supplies if I'm making, then I do not have to take registration, which is very common sense point. And second, if I am an agriculturist supplying out of cultivation of land. Now, how can in India we talk about exemptions and not talk about farmers? Of course. So we are saying who are agriculturists, all the individuals or HUFs who are undertaking cultivation of land. If we are undertaking cultivation of land and whatever is the produce produced out of this land that we are supplying, no need to take registration under GST. Ma'am, do I have to own the land? The answer is no. You can also have a rented land, which is okay. There should be a land and there should be cultivation out of the land. There is no requirement of you to own the land, right? So which means I can do the work myself also. I can hire some laborers or servants also to do the work. So in this case, let's say I'm an agriculturist, but I run a dairy also, which means I may be selling chocolate, cheese, etc., which is taxable. I'm not a pure agriculturist. Then I have to take registration if my limit exceeds the threshold limit. Agriculturist who is taking land on rent and cultivation is done by servants, that is okay. No need to take registration because land can be rented and work can be done by servants also. Basically, there should be a land and cultivation should be done and that should be sold. Then no registration required. I am selling some engine oil along with petrol. Now high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel and petroleum crude. Only these products are outside GST. Engine oil is not outside GST, which means I am not exclusively engaged in non-taxable items. Therefore, again, I will also have to take registration. So only two people under section 23, exclusively agriculturist and exclusively non-taxable exempt items people will not be required to take registration under GST. Then there are some other notified people also who are not required to take registration and they are same as section 24C. Person making supply of goods through e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS if you are fulfilling all these conditions. Already saw. Then person supplying services through e-commerce operator. We already know there is a blanket exception that any person supplying through e-commerce operator services, no need to take registration unless you actually reach your threshold limit. Then casual taxable person supplying notified handicraft goods. Again we saw person supplying services or handicraft goods interstate. Again no registration required. And because a person who is availing RCM supplies is compulsorily required to take registration. Where a person making only outward RCM supplies, let's say advocate, giving supply to anyone. Now, in that case, either it is exempt or there is RCM. So, advocate will never be liable to collect and pay under forward charge mechanism. No. So, no need for advocate to take registration. Let us say insurance agent. Now, insurance agent gives services to insurance company. So, insurance company being the recipient will have to take compulsory registration and pay RCM. So, what is the need for insurance agent to take RCM? To take registration. So the person supplying outward RCM supplies will not be required to take registration, but the person availing inward RCM supplies will have to take compulsory registration. Say yes or no, and here we have successfully completed 2 to 22 person liable for registration, 23 said not liable for registration, and 24 said compulsory registration, that if you are falling under the list of I-9 creation without even looking at your aggregate turnover, we will make you compulsorily liable to take registration under GST. Then shall we move on to next part of the chapter? Shall we move on to next part of the chapter? Yes, ma'am. Now we start with section 25, which talks about procedure for registration. Now, procedure first of all simply says that who will be required to take registration? Every person who is liable under 22-24, CTP, NRTP, or a person making supplies from territorial waters of India. Where will they be liable? Wherever they are doing business. For a casual taxable person and for a normal person, but for territorial waters of India, we yesterday only saw that if the location of supplier is in territorial waters of India, we assume it to be situated at the nearest coastal state or UT. So if there is a person who is making supplies from territorial waters of India, then that person will take registration on the nearest coastal state or UT on the baseline. Within how many days, ma'am? So normally person who is liable to take registration, the day on which they become liable, within 30 days from here, this person is required to take registration. So we will say that every person who is actually liable to take registration, be it from territorial waters, be it from normal state or UT, within 30 days will have to apply for registration. But a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person, because these people are coming to our place to do temporary supply transactions, we do not trust them. Therefore, we tell them to apply for registration at least 5 days prior to commencement of business. So the day on which they want to start their business, at least 5 days prior to that date, they will have to come and apply. For normal people, within 30 days from becoming liable, but for CTP and NRTP, before 5 working days, at least the day on which you become liable to take registration, within at least 5 days prior to that, you will have to make an application. For an input service distributor and SEC unit, you always have to take a separate registration even if you are in same state. Okay, this is all time pass. That one registration, one state is compulsory. Voluntarily, if you want to take more than one, you can take. If you are composition person in one state, you have to be composition person in all the state. If you are regular person in one state, you have to be regular person in all the state. If you are not liable, but you still want to take voluntary registration, you can. Nobody will stop you. PAN is always mandatory to take registration, but for TDS deductors, PAN number would also do. If you are NRTP, non-resident taxable person, ma'am, I'm not from India. If a person is not from India, of course he or she will not be having a PAN number. Then how can I take GST registration as an NRTP? So these people who are not having PAN number only because they are not Indians, for these people, passport or some other valid trusted documents can be used to give them registration. This entire page was time pass that you already know, being CA, CMA final students. Now moving on to this. Section 28, subsection 8, read with rule number 16. Let's say a person is liable but fails to obtain registration. Your aggregate turnover is actually more than 20 lakh, but you have not taken registration. Then a proper officer thinks that you should be taking registration, then proper officer can suo moto. What is the meaning of suo moto? On his own, on own motion. You can say suo moto means on own motion. So the proper officer can suo moto register you on temporary basis under GST. So if a person is liable but fails to get registration, then in that case, proper officer may suo moto temporarily register you. So the day on which proper officer gives you an order for temporarily registering you, within 90 days from this date, within 90 days from this date, either you accept that yes, it was my mistake, I was liable, I am sorry, and now you actually go and submit an application, a proper application to obtain registration, because this was temporary. They need all your documents for final registration. No. So the day on which they temporarily register you, within 90 days from this date, either you accept your mistake and you go to officer and you to go to portal and you actually make a proper application. Or you say that no ma'am, no, this proper officer is my ex, this proper officer is my ex, he is just simply lying, I am not liable. So you can go and file an appeal to the higher authority. You can go and file an appeal that I am actually not liable and still he or she is registering me. Now there are two possible outcomes. There are two possible outcomes once you file an appeal. Either you win the appeal, then of course this registration was temporarily, it will be cancelled, no problem, you are never registered. But if you lose the appeal, which means the appeal order is against you with the officer, then the day on which you receive appeal order, within 30 days from there, you will have to go and actually now apply for registration. And in any case, either you originally within 90 days only apply, or after losing the appeal you apply. In both the cases, the original date from which officer made you temporarily registered, that date only will become your effective date of registration. Bolo clear to everyone? Yes or no? Say yes. Say yes. Say ooh. Chalo, shall we proceed further? Done, ma'am. Now, talking about UIN number. I told you, unique identity number. Now, first of all, who has to obtain this number? Specialized agencies of United Nations organizations, multilateral financial institutions. This is consulate, not consulate, consulate. Consulate or embassy of foreign countries, all of these things. So, specialized agencies, these are basically all people from abroad, right? United Nations or multilateral financial institutions, consulates, embassies, these people if coming to India, they can obtain a unique identity number. Why, ma'am? Because whenever these people make some kind of purchases from India, we give them refund of whatever taxes they pay in India. Now to claim this refund, they will have to obtain a unique identity number. Therefore, they only take this number to get refund. Otherwise than that, they do not have to do all the compliances that a normal registered person does. We do not consider them as registered person only. They will not have to take separate UIN numbers state-wise. They take only one UIN number which is valid throughout central India. So we say UIN is a centralized UIN applicable to entire territory of India. No need to take state-wise UIN number. And these people will never be considered as registered person. They are not taxable persons. No tax compliances will come on them. The day on which they apply for UIN, because these are people from outside India, we need to show them that we are super quick. Therefore, the day on which they make application, within 3 working days from there, we will give them a UIN number. Got it, ma'am. Now, procedure for registration. Not very important for examination purpose. Rule 10A is important and 1 or 2 some effective date, etc. Only 2-3 points from procedure is important. But I will not skip procedure because this is something that anyways you will never want to study on your own. This is the most boring part of entire GST syllabus. I will try and make interesting for you, and I know because you will skip it, therefore I am covering it. Doesn't mean it is actually important. You just have to listen to it once, that is all. No need to sit and learn everything in procedure. Chalo, with me everyone. Procedure applies to every person except. So whatever procedure we are going to study in next 10 or 15 minutes applies to everyone except non-resident taxable person, TDS deductor, TCS collector, OIDAR and online money giving from outside India to India. Except for these 5 people. Who are these 5 people? NRTP, TDS, TCS, OIDAR, online money giving from outside India to India. Except for these 5 people, this procedure applies to everyone. Okay. Procedure simply says that you have to apply for GST number in form GST REG01. So there are 2 parts to this form, part number A and part B. In part A, you simply have to give them your PAN number, which will be validated from the CBDT database, right? CBDT, what is CBDT? Ma'am, CBDT is Central Board of Direct Taxes. So I will give my PAN number, which will be validated online from the CBDT database. Also, I will give my mobile number, email ID, which state I want to take registration. Only these basic things are given in part A. You need to make sure that whatever mobile number and email ID you are giving, they have to be linked with your PAN only. You get 2 separate OTPs. One OTP on your mobile number, one OTP on your email ID. And then you enter 2 separate OTPs, and after validation, a temporary reference number is generated. A TRN is generated. Now, with the use of TRN number, you can open your GST REG01 Part B. So part A is very simple. Today also if you go to www.gst.gov.in, you can go to new registration tab and you will see part A open in front of you, where you have to select that which state you want to take registration, what is your PAN number, what is your style number, what is mobile number. This is a song if you don't know about this. Okay. So you have to enter a mobile number and email ID which is linked with your PAN. You get a separate OTP on mobile, a separate OTP on email. You enter both the OTPs and a temporary reference number is generated. Now you enter the temporary reference number and here opens part B in front of you. Now part B will ask you all the possible details that it could, which are what are your business details, what are your personal details, your address details, what goods or services you are going to deal in, what are the HSN codes of the goods services that you are going to deal in, are you assigning anyone as your authorized signatory, are you hiring anyone as your authorized representative, are you going to do your other authentication, what are your bank account details, oh my god, everything. These are more questions than I asked my husband before even marrying him. So more questions. Part B of GST REG01 is going to ask you, and along with all the document proof, you are going to submit all these details. Now amongst all these details, 2 particular things we are going to discuss, which is bank details and Aadhaar authentication. Now first talking about Rule 10A. First talking about Rule 10A, it says that if at the time of furnishing Part B of GST REG01, if you do not want to give your bank details, it is okay. We will still give you GST registration. we will still give you registration certificate without bank details in your part B. It is okay. But in that case, the day on which you receive your registration certificate, within 30 days from you receiving your registration certificate, or the day when you are actually filing your GSTR1 or invoice furnishing facility, whichever is earlier, 30 days from RC or your first filing of GSTR1 or IFF, before this date, now you will have to give your bank account details. We are saying without giving bank account details, it is okay. We can give you RC. But once you obtain RC, then within 30 days from grant of registration or furnishing details of the outward supplies in GSTR1 or IFF, whichever is earlier, you will have to now furnish your bank account details. But for TDS people, TCS people, or these people who were suo motu registered by the proper officer, they will have to give their bank details while filing Part B only. For them, this option of giving bank details later on is not available. These people will have to give their bank details only at the time of making registration application. Right, ma'am. Then talking about Aadhaar authentication. Chalo. This is actually very boring, but I can explain in a very simple way. So pay all the attention here and you will never forget even the procedure and the time limits. What are you saying? Yes, we have actually derived a technique to remember the entire procedure along with time limits. Oh my God. After this, you're going to start loving me. But I'm sorry, I'm taken already. Chalo. So now, talking about Aadhaar authentication. If you are already registered under GST, because GST came in 2017 and people took registration then only, but the provisions of Aadhaar authentication came later on. Now in that case, there were people who were already registered under GST even without authentication. Then these people were also required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. Otherwise, we will deem assume as if they never took registration and all the penalties will start to apply to them. So this is kind of a transition provision. Got it. Oh, we love you already, ma'am. Wow, Tamanna, same here. So now we are saying, what if we are taking new registration? What if we are taking new registration? Now in that case, understand, if today I decide to take a new registration, there are two possibilities. One, I am individual, and second, I am other. Now, it is very basic thing. That only individuals in India have Aadhaar number, right? Have you ever seen a company having Aadhaar number? No, ma'am. Only individuals in India have Aadhaar number. So individuals can get their Aadhaar authentication done, or they can provide the proof of them having the Aadhaar card. But if you are other, let's say I am a company, HUF, partnership firm, all of these cases where I am not having Aadhaar card only, then what to do? Then of course the company cannot get its Aadhaar authentication done, but the director of company or the partner of the partnership firm or the Karta of HUF or the authorized signatory, these people can get their Aadhaar authentication done. No. So here we are saying that if an individual is taking new registration, then they can undergo Aadhaar authentication or furnish the proof. But for other than individual person, Karta, partner, director, authorized signatory, these people will have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. And not like if a partnership firm has 10 partners, then everyone is not required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. Everyone is not required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. We will say that only one primary person and one other person can undergo Aadhaar authentication. So we are saying it is not mandatory for every authorized signatory to get Aadhaar authentication done. Only one primary person and any one other partner, director, Karta member, anyone can get Aadhaar authentication done. Not required for everyone. And these people are never required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. If you are not citizen of India, you of course do not have an Aadhaar card. If you are a UIN holder, of course you are from outside India, you do not have an Aadhaar card. And these are government peoples, right? If there's a government company, tell me which director will take this responsibility and undergo his Aadhaar authentication for a government company? Never. So we are saying for government, central government, state government, department, local authority, stat body, PSU, no Aadhaar authentication required. Otherwise than that, every single person registered under GST will have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. But But ma'am, if I am taking new registration and due to any reason I am not able to do authentication or my authentication is failing, then do I have some other option available with me? The answer is yes. So while you are filing your GST REG01 Part B, they will actually ask you if you want to undergo other authentication or not. If you tick yes here, then only your other authentication will be done. If you tick no, then we have some other procedures available for you, that your physical verification can be done. On some other documents also they can give you registration. That is a separate thing. Otherwise than that, normally other authentication you have to do. Got it, ma'am. So for failure to furnish part, leave as of now. After 5 minutes, I will explain. Okay. And for two things, we call them re. Which are these two things? Re. We are saying for re and re, which is revocation, cancellation application or refund application. If two things we want to do under GST, re, which two things? Re. They are revocation, cancellation application or refund application. If you want to do these two particular types of applications under GST, then according to Rule 10B, it is mandatory that your Aadhaar should be authenticated. Before making refund or revocation application compulsory, you will have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. If not you, your Karta, member, partner, etc. as already explained. Ma'am, I am not having Aadhaar card. No problem. You first apply for Aadhaar card. So you will get an Aadhaar enrollment slip. With that slip, one photo, your passbook details, etc. you can furnish and make application. As soon as you get your Aadhaar card, within 30 days from there, you will undergo Aadhaar authentication. So if you want to do if you want to go do which is revocation or refund application, Aadhaar authentication is mandatory. Got it, ma'am? Got it. Now listen. Ma'am, as you said, there are two possibilities available. One, I can say yes, I want to undergo Aadhaar authentication. If it is yes, then what will be my date of filing application? Date of filing application. Now see, how do we actually undergo Aadhaar authentication? If you tick yes, you get a hyperlink on your registered mail mobile. You click on that link, it redirects you to a website where you have to enter your Aadhaar card number, OTP that you get on the mobile, and your Aadhaar is authenticated. It is just a 2-minute activity, that is all. Click on a link, enter Aadhaar card, enter OTP, and your Aadhaar is authenticated. Okay, so if I selected yes, I want to undergo Aadhaar authentication, then after furnishing Part B, whenever I get this link and I undergo Aadhaar authentication, so the day on which I actually undergo Aadhaar authentication or 15 days from the day on which I furnish Part B, whichever is earlier. The government is saying we cannot wait for entire lifetime. No, we are not Devdas for us to wait. So government is saying maximum 15 days. So the day on which you furnish Part B, either you actually undergo Aadhaar authentication or it has already been 15 days. You are not undergoing Aadhaar authentication. You are not even opening that link. Then it is done over. The day on which 15th day ends, we will consider your application to be filed without Aadhaar authentication. Okay, ma'am. Now in this case, there are two possibilities. One, if I have undergone Aadhaar authentication, then my authentication can be successful. Of course, I clicked on the link, everything was okay, and my Aadhaar authentication was successful. Or there is another possibility that my Aadhaar authentication is not successful. Two possibilities are only there. If I ticked yes for Aadhaar authentication, either I entered OTP, everything was okay, and my Aadhaar authentication was successful, or it was not successful. Again, if my authentication was successful, in turn there are two other possibilities. There is no deficiency in the application. Authentication successful, all the details perfect, all documents perfect, all the proof perfect, everything is perfect. Then registration certificate will be granted to me within 7 days. Registration certificate will be granted to me within 7 working days of me making the application. So the day on which I undergo Aadhaar authentication, that will be my date of filing application. From there, within 7 working days, I will get a registration certificate. If I do not get registration certificate within 7 working days, then it will be deemed. It will be deemed that I am registered only, and then compulsory government will have to give me registration certificate, no option with them. But if there is deficiency, Let's say my authentication was successful, but my address proof was not proper, my picture was not proper, there is any kind of deficiency in the application. Then officer will issue me a notice for it, again within 7 working days only. Why? Because if they do not issue me a notice within 7 working days, it will be deemed assumed that there is no deficiency and deemed I will be registered. So whatever officer wants to do, officer will have to do within 7 working days only. So they issue me a notice or they issue me registration certificate within 7 working days. If nothing is done within 7 working days, I will be deemed registered. Right, ma'am? If I get a notice, I have to reply within 7 working days of receiving the notice. Once I reply, then again, after I reply, officer has 7 working days to be satisfied and give me RC, or it will be deemed as if I have got the RC. But if officer is not satisfied with my reply also, then within 7 working days, they will have to reject my application. See, understand, the day on which I undergo Aadhaar authentication, if everything is perfect, okay, then within 7 working days, I will get RC. If I do not get, it will be deemed as if I have got the RC. If my authentication is successful, but it is some deficiency, then within 7 working days, notice will be issued to me. Once I get notice, I reply to the notice within 7 working days. Once I reply, officer again takes an action within 7 working days whether to accept or to reject. Because if nothing is done within 7 working days, it will be deemed as if I have received the registration certificate. Tell me, are you clear with the entire procedure till here? I will make you learn procedure right here, right now. Why, ma'am? बस मेरे को मजा आता है. I enjoy. Therefore, done, ma'am. But ma'am, what if my authentication failed? My authentication only was not successful. I did authentication, but it was not successful. Or let's say 15 days have elapsed. 15 days have elapsed and I have not done authentication only. Or let's say portal identified me based on risk parameter. Now, what is this paragraph saying? This paragraph is saying that once you make application, no, portal can identify you based on some kind of data analysis or risk analysis that you are a risky person. If you are identified as a risky person, ma'am, how is that possible? Let's say I had done some fraud in the VAT era, in the service tax era. So of course I am a repeat offender kind of a person. So we will say that yes, I may be a person who is identified on risk basis. So government has zero trust on me. So government is saying we will not accept your digital Aadhaar authentication. We want you to physically come to GST department office, physically do your biometric based Aadhaar authentication, physically show us all the real documents. Then we will assume that okay, now your authentication is done. So what we are saying, that if that person is identified by the portal based on data analysis or risk parameter that he is a risky person, then his biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be done. The officer will take photograph, officer will physically call that person in GST department office along with all the original copy of the documents, etc. And only then we will assume as if okay, the authentication is completed and the procedure is done. But as of now, these kind of provisions only apply in Gujarat, Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh, right? Only in Gujarat, Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh, only for these 3 places, this provision is applicable as of now. Other than these 3 states, if you want, you can write in your notes also. Gujarat, Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh. Only these 3 states for now is this kind of physical calling of person allowed. Otherwise than that, there is at all other places electronic Aadhaar authentication only. Okay. So let's say I am identified on common portal, or 15 days have elapsed, I have not done authentication, or my authentication is failed. If any of these things have happened, then we will treat it exactly as if we have not done Aadhaar authentication only. If authentication is failed, I am not doing, or I am physically called at the office, then it will be treated as if same to same, that while filing application only, I selected no for Aadhaar authentication. If I selected no for Aadhaar authentication, then what will be my date of filing application? Ma'am, of course, the date when I submit my part B. Right? If while making the registration application only, you say that I'm not going to do other authentication, then what is even the point for us to wait for, if he has sister zoned you? If he has sister zoned you, you will never even wait for him. But if he has friend zoned you, of course you still have a chance. No. Actually, this example was going on in my head, therefore I said he. So if he had sister zoned you, which means at the time of filing application only, you said, no, I'm not going to undertake other authentication. So the date on which you furnish your part B, that is only your date of filing application. But if he has friend zoned you, there is still a chance, no darling. So in that case, the day on which you actually do other authentication or 15 days from application, whichever is earlier, we assume the application to be deemed filed. Got it, ma'am? Now in this case, other authentication is not there. Okay. So now there are two possibilities. One, there is deficiency in the application with respect to other things, or there is no deficiency in the application. Now understand, if I am not doing other authentication, then officer will do my physical verification. If I am not doing Aadhaar authentication, then the proper officer, before giving me registration under GST, will do my physical verification. Now, of course, physical verification takes little more time. So, in case of Aadhaar authentication, we had 7 working days time limit to either issue notice or RC. But here, because we have to do physical verification, therefore we have 30 days time limit. So within 30 days, officer will issue me a notice if there is deficiency. If there is no deficiency, then you simply finish the physical verification and issue me registration certificate within 30 days. If you're not giving, it will be deemed as if RC is given within 30 days. Got it, ma'am? Because physical verification has to be done in case of no authentication. Therefore, we have 30 days ka time limit to issue RC or to issue notice. Rest everything is same. Once notice is issued, to reply to this notice, you get 7 working days only. After your reply, officer again gets 7 working days only to decide, otherwise it is deemed accepted. Everything is same as the case that we studied above. The only difference here is, because physical verification will be done, it is not possible to complete within 7 working days like here. Therefore, we give 30 days time, that within 30 days either you issue notice or you complete physical verification and everything, and you issue a registration certificate only within 30 days. Otherwise, it will be deemed as if RC is given. Got it? Earlier, the provision said that physical verification was possible only in the presence of the said person. But now this point is striked off by government. So now government says that even if the person whose physical verification has to be done, that person is not present at the office, no problem, officer can still go and complete the physical verification. Because what people used to do, they used to run away. As soon as I get to know that officer is coming at my office, I will run away and I will waste 30 days like this only. So I have to get deemed registration then. So because people started running away from the places, government said that, okay, we do not even require even if you are not there at the place, we can still come and do physical verification. Got it, ma'am? So within 30 days, physical verification will be done. If there is no deficiency, everything is okay, we will give you RC. Or there is this another option available. If you are not able to do Aadhaar authentication, we are not able to do physical verification also. It could be something serious. Now in this case, it is possible that some riots are going on in this place. So no officer is ready to even go there for physical verification. It is very risky. There is a landslide happening, earthquake happening, anything like that. Then what to do? In this case, based on some other documents, for example, passport or something like that. So based on some other documents which are trustworthy, which are fit, officer can give you registration within 30 days. But in this case, because no authentication is done, no physical verification is done, so you have to write a reason you have to record a reason in writing, that what was the reason that nothing was possible. So you record the reason and take approval at least from Joint Commissioner or an officer above Joint Commissioner, and only then, based on some other documents without physical verification, registration certificate can be given to you. Bolo. I think I made you learn all the time limits. If while making application, you selected for Aadhaar authentication, then the day on which authentication is done or 15 days from furnishing Part B, whichever is earlier, will be your effective date of filing application. If everything is okay, no deficiency, within 7 working days, RC will be given to you, otherwise deemed given to you. If there is deficiency, then notice within 7 working days only has to be given, otherwise we will deem assume RC. Once notice is given, you have to reply within 7 working days. Once you reply, officer will take the final action within 7 working days. But if my authentication failed, I did not do authentication, anything like that, then in that case, if my authentication failed or I did not do authentication, I was identified on the common portal, if anything like that has happened, then in that case, my physical verification will be done. Now, because physical verification requires little more time, we have 30 days time here. So we will say within 30 days, either you finish off everything and issue registration certificate. If not possible to issue registration certificate within if physical verification is done but there is some other deficiency, then you issue notice within 30 days. Now, once notice is issued, then everything is same like this only. Once notice is issued, you reply within 7 working days. After your reply, officer takes action within 7 working days. That everything is same. Only the original limit of 7 days becomes 30 days because physical verification takes time, or if not physical verification, then on some other documents basis also we can give registration. Bolo yes or no. Did I actually make you learn all the time limits under procedure for registration? Bolo na guys. This genuinely takes a lot of efforts. In revision, I can tell this is not relevant for exam and I can even skip it. But I wanted you to be confident about every single page in the book. Hence, we took 20 minutes, I guess, to learn entire registration procedure. But now you will not have to do it on your own. Say yes. Come on. Done, ma'am. Now talking about physical verification. Now, physical verification possible in 2 cases. One when we have to do registration before application only. For all of these cases where there is where in the case authentication has failed, you are not doing authentication, you are identified on common portal, if anything like that has happened, then before giving you registration only, we will have to undergo physical verification. Then in that case, officer will come at your premises, officer will do your physical verification, and whatever is the last date for officer to give you registration certificate, before 5 working days, he will have to upload the report. So let us say today I submitted part B. Today I submitted part B of application. Then within 30 days, officer will have to give me RC after doing physical verification. So the last day for physical verification would be 5 working days prior to this date. So at least they have 5 days in hand to issue RC or to issue notice if anything is there. So they are saying that what is the last day to give you RC? 30 days. Right. So the day on which these 30 days expire, at least 5 working days prior to this date. At least 5 working days prior to this date, physical verification will be completed and the report of physical verification will be uploaded in GST REG 30 on the common portal. No need to remember these form numbers. Okay, ma'am. But if in some cases, even after you have been granted with registration, and officer has some doubts and he wants to do physical verification, he can. So even after officer has given you registration, now he wants to do your physical verification. Then in that case also, he can come do verification, take photograph of the places and upload everything in GST REG 30. But here there is no last date to do anything. No. So the day on which such physical verification is done, within 15 working days from here, within 15 working days from here, officer will upload the report on the common portal. See, if physical verification is done before granting you registration, then whatever is the last date to grant you registration, at least 5 working days prior to this date, they will have to upload the report. But if registration is already given to you, then there is no last date. No. So the day on which such physical verification is done, within 15 working days from there, officer will upload the report online on the portal in GST REG 30. And for people like me who are not very tech savvy people, if my mic goes off, I'm like, okay, shit, now what to do? I'll just restart everything. I'll call this. Or if you are also that kind of people, you do not know how to scan, how to upload documents, then you can go to physical facilitation centers. So government has set up GST facilitation centers. You can go there, give them the documents. They will scan and do everything for you. So for non-tech savvy people like me, physical documents can be submitted at facilitation centers who can then upload them online. Okay, chalo. Just one more page, then I will give you break. Before starting section 26, I will give you break. Do not worry. Just 5 more minutes with me. This is important, which is effective date of registration. Now here we say the day on which you become liable for registration. Let's say today my turnover exceeded 20 lakh rupees and I became liable. Then I have to apply for registration within 30 days. Right, ma'am. If I apply for registration within 30 days from here, then whenever I actually get RC, that is irrelevant, the day on which I actually become liable, that only becomes my effective date of registration. But if I apply after 30 days from becoming liable, then the day on which I actually get RC, that becomes effective date of registration. Let's take an example. Shiv Limited crossed 20 lakh turnover. Why is it not working? Shiv Limited crossed 20 lakh turnover on 5 Jan 2024. Applied for registration on 28 Jan and RC granted on 14 Feb. Which means I became liable on 5 Jan. If I apply within 30 days from here, then obtaining RC date is irrelevant. Whenever I actually became liable, that is only effective date. I applied on 28 Jan only, which is within 30 days, right? I became liable on 5 Jan. I applied on 28, which is within 30 days. Therefore, this date is irrelevant and 5 January only becomes my effective date of registration, the day on which I actually became liable. But if in the same example, let us assume the application was made on 10th February. If the application was made on 10th Feb, but I became liable on 5 Jan, it is after 30 days. It is after 30 days. Therefore, the day on which I actually get RC, which is 14 Feb, then becomes my effective date of registration. Ma'am, I was never liable. I applied for voluntary registration. Then in case of voluntary registration, so of course, whenever you get RC, that only becomes your effective date of registration. Simple. GST number is a 15-digit number, 2-digit state code, PAN, entity number and checksum character. You have to display. Of course, you did so many efforts, this big procedure to obtain registration certificate. Of course, you will have to display your registration certificate at your every place of business in a prominent location. Got it, ma'am? Now already, while starting off this section, I said that the entire procedure that we are going to study is applicable to everyone except NRTP, TDS, TCS, OIDAR and online money gaming outside India to India. So for these 5 people, that procedure was not applicable, which means now for OIDAR and online money gaming people, there is a very simple registration that they have to do in GST REG 10 and then they are granted registration REG 06. No need to remember for exam because they will never ask you form numbers in examination and simply normal people file REG 01. These people file REG 10 and they get registration in REG 06. Similarly, for TDS and TCS people, what happens? No, they have to make application in REG 07. Now understand, the TDS TCS people have liabilities in multiple states to take registration, but they are not actually having a physical place of business in all the states. Then what to do? Because we said while taking registration, I have to provide address proof. I need to have a place of business in a state to take registration. So in a state, I need to have a physical place of business, then I take registration under GST. But TDS TCS people do businesses even without having physical places there, but they need to take registration. Then what to do? No problem. Let us say Amazon today is an e-commerce operator under section 52 collecting TCS, wants to take registration in Gujarat, but not having a physical place of business in Gujarat. They only have 2 offices across India, one in Mumbai, one in Bangalore. So Maharashtra and Karnataka, they have place, otherwise they do not have place, but they want to take registration in Gujarat. What to do? No problem. While filing part A of the registration, application, they will select Gujarat, that I want to take registration in Gujarat. But actually, while giving the address proof in part B, they can give their Mumbai head office address. It is okay, no problem. So for TDS, TCS people, we are saying whatever state they want to take registration, they mention in part B. And whatever state they actually have a place of business, They mention in part B, and they both may be different, no problem. The day on which they make application in REG 07, within 3 working days from there, registration will be given to them. And if they are no longer liable to deduct TDS or TCS, they can even apply to proper officer, or if proper officer himself is satisfied, their registration can be cancelled also. So registration may be cancelled on request made by RP, or when proper officer is satisfied that now we are no longer liable to deduct TDS or TCS. Done. Here we complete section 22 to 22. You are earning double. You are a person liable for registration. 23 said not liable. 24 said, hey, you shut up and take compulsory registration under GST. 25 said, okay, we will take registration, but please at least tell us the procedure, where we saw bank details, Aadhaar authentication, how to make application, physical verification, the time limits involved, effective date, everything we have completed. Then section 26 says deemed registration. Section 26 says deemed registration, which means I do not have to do entire procedure twice or thrice in all the acts. Once if I applied in SGST Act, I have taken registration, I am deemed registered in all the other acts. Registered in one act, registered in all the acts. Cancelled in one act, cancelled in all the acts. Say yes or no, clear to everyone. Do you need a break or we shall continue? I don't mind continuing, but I saw 2-3 students asking for break. Therefore, I can continue. I think we should take a break. Even I need a 2 minutes break. Sure. I need a 2 minutes break. So we'll just start in 5 minutes. Hai na? Only 5 minutes and we'll start. I need a breather for 5 minutes. It is, what the time is? It is 4:04. We resume sharp at 4:10. Sharp 4:10 we will resume and finish off the remaining part of the chapter. Chalo. Chalo, shall we start everyone back? Shall we start? Just a second. Chalo. Shall we start? Yes, ma'am. So now, after having completed everything till section 26, we now move on to section 27, which talks about casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. Now, the definition simply says that most important word here is occasionally. A person who occasionally, because if you are permanent, you take a normal regular registration. If you are coming to undertake transactions, which transactions, ma'am? Of course, we are interested in the transactions involving supply. If you are undertaking those transactions where supply is involved, supply of what? Goods, services, or both, that too occasionally, then you will be known as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. So the definition is very simple. If a person who occasionally undertakes transactions, ma'am, transactions, what transactions we will be interested in? Supply transactions. Supply of what? Goods, services, or both, whether as principal, agent, or any capacity. In course furtherance of business in a state or union territory where we do not have any fixed place of business. In a state or union territory where we do not have any fixed place of business, then we will be known as casual taxable person. So I'm normally registered in Gujarat, but there's a 10-day trade fair happening in Delhi. So I went to Delhi only for 10 days to undertake supply transactions and co-furtherance of business. I will be known as casual taxable person. But for non-resident taxable person, we will say that this person is not having any place of business or residence in entire India only. So the difference here is that in casual taxable person, we are not there in that state. But for non-resident taxable person, we have temporarily come to India only. We are not having any place in entire India only. So there are two differences between CTP and NRTP. Difference number one, CTP is not present in that state but is having a place in some another state, whereas NRTP not there in entire India only. And second difference is there is a business test for CTP. That CTP should be doing transactions in course furtherance of business. Whereas NRTP, there is no business test. Simply if an NRTP is coming and doing supply transactions, then also he or she will be known as NRTP. So the business test is present in casual taxable person but not present in non-resident taxable person. What the provisions are saying. So these people have to come at least 5 days prior and do application. So if I want to start today, as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, then at least 5 working days prior. Now they have written 5 days only, but it is 5 working days because of the department will consider 5 working days only always to give you a registration. So here we are saying that the day on which you at least where is it? Okay, I've already explained you as such that point with section 25, right? In procedure point, we only saw that if you want to start your business as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, you will have to apply at least 5 days prior from the date on which you want to start doing transactions. Okay. Also, while making application, you will have to deposit advance tax. Whatever is your estimated tax liability that you are estimating, on that, whatever tax will be required to be paid by you, that tax you will have to give in advance only at the time of making application. But why, ma'am? Because you are coming here occasionally, temporarily. What if you run away overnight? How are we going to cash you? You are not even having a place of business in this state. No. Therefore, we do not trust you and we are taking entire tax in advance only from you. Okay, ma'am. For how many days can these people be registered? So we are saying the period that they specify. So let's say I said that I have come for a 10-day trade fair in Delhi. So 10 days. So whatever period that I specify in my application or 90 days, whichever is earlier. Whatever period I specify, or 90 days, whichever is earlier, which simply means that I can be maximum registered as a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person for 90 days. But what if, ma'am, the trade fair is for 97 days? Then chalo, no problem. You can take an extension also, but only one time further extension of how many days? Tell me in comment section. Only one time further extension is allowed. For how many days? Very good, for 90 days, ma'am. So we are saying that maximum originally 90 plus extended 90, you can be registered for 180 days as a CTP or NRTP. Ma'am, the trade fair is for 183 days. Ma'am, only 3 days. Please give extension only 3 days. The answer is no. If the trade fair is for more than 180 days, then in that case, you will have to take a regular registration. And after your fair is over, after 183 days, when you are returning back, you can simply surrender your registration and then go back. So for how much period you can be registered as CTP or NRTP? Whatever you specify, or 90 days, whichever is earlier. But if you want to extend, you can extend for only one time. No further extension possible. Only one time further extension of 90 days available. You have to deposit entire tax liability in advance. Let's say I am seeking extension. Then at the time of making extension application also for this extended period, I will again have to deposit my advance tax liabilities. Done, ma'am. So this is all that is written here. Period specified 90 days, whichever is earlier. One time further extension 90 days available. No period can be extended for more than 90 plus 90 days. Then you will have to take a normal registration and then surrender when you are going back. At the time of making application, you will have to make entire amount deposited in advance only, and a deemed registration is applicable here also, which means for CTP and IDT also, they have to make application only in SGST Act, and they are deemed registered in all the other acts. So deemed registration section as it is applies to CTP and NRTP people also. Got it, ma'am. Then moving on to section 28, 29, 30, which is amendment, cancellation and revocation of cancellation. Amendment, very simple. It says that you have to make application in REG 14, anyways not required to remember. So, if I want to amend my core field, what is my core field which is important, based on which decisions can change, based on which if department wants to find you sometime, they might have a hard time finding you. Let's say I'm changing my address, my declared place of business in Ahmedabad only. Let's say I'm in Ahmedabad and my declared place of business is in Mumbai. In Maninagar. Now Maninagar is a place in Ahmedabad. So my declared place of business is Maninagar. Chalo, because this is a English batch, we'll take example of Chennai. So just name 2 areas of Chennai. One I know is Saukarpet. Now I don't know if I'm writing the spelling right or not. I don't know. There's an area known as Saukarpet in Chennai. So let's say my registered office was in Saukarpet, Chennai. But now I am changing my address. To, let's say, any, I don't know, whatever street it is of Chennai only. This is important. Because if the officer anytime wants to do TR Nagar. Okay, chalo. We have TR Nagar. We have Kilpauk, if I'm not wrong. Kilpauk is the place in Chennai. T Nagar is also a place in Chennai. Yes, I have visited Chennai multiple times. Tambram, yes. In that movie, no, Shivaji the Boss. There's this Tambram where that entire Fast and All Chennai office, right? Chalo, E Road is also there. Multiple places I visited, I was not able to recall. Okay, so I'm changing my address. Which means this is important. If officer anytime wants to do physical verification, he would come to my registered place and I'm not there only. So if I want to make amendments in my core field, let us say I am a partnership firm. And in that case, one of my partner is retiring or a new partner is admitting. We are a company and the director is resigning, new director is coming. These are all important core fields. You cannot change them as it is only. So in that case, you will have to first apply. Within 15 days of such change. Within 15 days of such change to officer that we want to change this thing in registration certificate. Once you apply, officer will check everything, and if everything is okay, then within 15 working days, they will tell you, okay, you can change. But if at all, within 15 working days, they are not satisfied, they can issue you a notice also that please reply why change of address. No, we think something is problematic, anything like that. If you get notice, you reply within 7 working days. Once you reply, further action is taken within 7 working days. So this is very simple. So anything like your legal name, your address, you are admitted, you are removed, your director is changing, if anything like that is happening, in that case, these are all the changes in core fields. These are all the changes in core field, and for any change in core field, you have to apply within 15 days. Once you apply, officer takes action within 15 working days. If an action is issuing you a notice, then you have to reply to notice within 7 working days. Once you reply, officer will again take action within 7 working days. But let's say there is a non-core field. I'm changing my mobile number, email ID, very simple. No, these things can be validated by an OTP also. Why even there is a need to take approval? So if there are changes in non-core fields, then you can directly file GST REG 14 online and your registration certificate shall stand amended. No need to apply for amendment. So here we are saying for non-core field like mobile, email, etc. you can directly submit your application. No approval required. Your RC shall stand amended. But if your PAN is changing or your state is changing, ma'am, how can my PAN change? How can my PAN change? I was a proprietorship firm. Now I converted into a partnership firm. I was a partnership firm. I converted into a company, or I converted into a limited liability partnership. Now, of course, we understand individual has a separate PAN, firm has a separate PAN, and company has a separate PAN. So if my PAN is changing, my constitution is changing, then of course GST number cannot be amended. You will have to take new registration based on this new PAN and cancel your existing earlier registration. Or if my address is changing but in some different state, like my earlier address was Ahmedabad and now my address is Ichalkaranji. So my address has changed from Gujarat to Maharashtra. My address is changed from Gujarat to Maharashtra. I cannot amend my existing registration because understand, the first 2 digits of GST number are state code. The next 10 digits of GST number are PAN number. So if your state and PAN changes, your GST number will only change. How can you even amend that? So if address is changing in the same state, it is a core field change. But if the address is changing in some another state, no, then in that case, you have to take a new registration and cancel out your existing registration. Right, ma'am? So if there's a change in PAN or state, then you have to take new registration, no way out. And amendment always have a prospective effect unless if commissioner in some order tells to have a retrospective effect, that's a separate thing. Otherwise, amendment in registration will always have a prospective effect only. Then moving on to section 29, which is cancellation of registration. Section 29 talks about cancellation of registration. Now, there is a lot of stuff given in cancellation. I will cover only stuff which is important for exam. Because in cancellation, we have something about suspension also. Then while cancelling, you have to reverse your ITCs also. And a lot of things are given which are not very important for exam point of view. You can self-read them. I will cover the only important areas of cancellation. Now, in cancellation, there are 2 possibilities. One, you yourself are applying. You make an application for cancellation and your registration is cancelled. Or second, proper officer on his own motion, suo motu, wants to cancel your registration. Both the possibilities are there. So if I am myself applying for cancellation, it could be some normal cases. Let's say my state is changing, my PAN is changing, I died, so my legal representatives are applying for cancellation, or I want to discontinue my business. I had earlier taken voluntary registration, but I do not want to continue. These are very genuine cases where my registration has to be cancelled. So I can apply, proper officer if satisfied will cancel my registration. But there are some cases where proper officer can suo motu even cancel out my registration, and this is important. You have to remember this. If I have contravened any provision of Rule 21, then what are the provisions of Rule 21? I am not conducting business from my declared place of business, which means I might be doing business from some other place which is not declared to government. So government can cancel my registration. If I am issuing fake invoices, I am issuing invoices without doing any supply in violation of the act, then my registration can be cancelled. If I am violating anti-profiteering provisions, I am not submitting my bank account details within 30 days or GST or 1 IFF, whichever is earlier. They trusted on me, gave me RC without bank account details. Now according to Rule 10A, I am not furnishing bank details. then my registration can be cancelled. I have availed ITC by violating provisions of section 16. I am showing more sales in GSTR1 and less in 3B. Why? Because payment has to be done in 3B and GSTR1 is only declaration. So I am declaring everything in 1, but I am not paying anything by not showing in GSTR3B. So that could be the case. I am violating rule 86B, or if I am a regular registered person who is required to file monthly returns and it is already 6 consecutive months I have not filed my return, I have not filed my GSTR 3B, then also my registration can be cancelled. So being a normal regular registered person, it's been continuous 6 months I have not filed return under section 39 means GSTR 3B. So it is 6 continuous months that I have not filed my GSTR 3B. Or if I am a QRMP person, quarterly return monthly payment person who has to file returns quarterly only, then in that case, it is 2 tax periods I have not filed my GSTR 3B. 2 tax period essentially means 6 months only, because 1 period, 1 quarter has 3 months. So 2 periods would have 6 months. But what language you will write? That for a monthly return filer, you have to see 6 months, and for a quarterly return filer, for 2 tax periods, if GSTR 3Bs are not filed, then your registration can be cancelled. Chalo everyone in the comment section. If I am not doing the business from my declared place of business, if I am issuing fake invoices, I am violating rule 10A, I am violating rule 86B, I am violating section 16, I am showing more sales in 1 compared to 3B, or I am violating anti-profiteering provisions. In all of these cases, my registration can be suo motu cancelled by proper officer. Being a normal person, I am not filing returns for consecutive period of 6 months. Being a quarterly return monthly payment person, I am not filing returns consecutively for 2 tax periods. Then my registration can be suo motu cancelled. Or if I have taken voluntary registration, I was not even liable, and it's been already 6 months since I have taken voluntary registration, but I am not starting my business only. So I took voluntary registration. And it's been already 6 months. I have not commenced my business. Then why did you even take registration in the first place? So we will cancel your registration. Or you took registration by means of fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of fact, anything like that. Then also your registration can be cancelled. Tell me, how many returns is a composition person required to file? How many returns is a composition taxable person required to file? Ma'am, 4 returns, 4 CMP08 in a year. A, absolutely wrong. Composition person is required to file only 1 return for the entire financial year, which is GSTR4. CMP08 is a form to make payment. It is not a return. Return only 1 we have to file, GSTR4, the due date of which is 30 April after the end of financial year. So if being a composition person, it's been already more than 3 months since your due date of 30 April has elapsed. So whatever is your due date to file GSTR4, it's already more than 3 months. 1 return you were required to file, that also you cannot file within 3 months. Then also your registration can be cancelled suo motu by proper officer. So composition person who has not furnished any return beyond 3 months from the due date of furnishing return. This is irrelevant because this is already covered in rule 21. Okay. So for all of these cases, proper officer can first issue you a show cause notice, means they are giving you what is OBH, opportunity of being heard. OBH is opportunity of being heard. So a proper officer will once issue you a show cause notice, which means they will give you 1 opportunity of being heard, and based on your reply, they can then cancel your registration suo motu. And for the period when your registration proceedings are going on, let us say I myself applied for cancellation today. Now officer will check everything and then give me cancellation order. So during this time, what will happen? My registration will be suspended. Or let us say proper officer has issued me a show cause notice asking, why should we not cancel your registration? If my show cause notice is issued, means my cancellation proceedings are started, but the proceedings are going on. Till the actual completion of proceedings, my registration will be suspended, which means during the suspension period, I cannot file returns. During suspension period, I cannot file refund application. All of these things will be blocked for the suspension period. Right, ma'am. After suspension, if I am not cancelled, I will file all the pending returns for this period. So let us say suspension was applied today. Proceedings were going on, and finally it was decided that I am not cancelled. If finally it was decided that I am not cancelled, then for all these periods, because I was suspended, I did not file any return, I did not issue tax invoices. Now what to do? No problem. From here, within 1 month, you will issue all the revised tax invoices and you will file a return for this entire period if you are not cancelled. And if you are decided to be cancelled, then the day on which suspension was put in place, from that day only you will be registered as cancelled. So basically we are saying the day on which suspension applies, the day on which suspension is invoked is the same day when it is revoked. So even if I decide to be not cancelled here, suspension will be revoked from this day only. And if I am decided to be cancelled, I will be cancelled from this date only. So for this period, if I am cancelled, no need to do anything. If I am not cancelled, I will then later file all the pending returns and issue revised tax invoices. Right, ma'am. Now tell me, if I am cancelled today, I am cancelled on, let us assume, 1st December 2025, I am cancelled. Can I file a return of January 2026? Can I file a return of January 2026? No, ma'am. Can I file a return for December? No, because on 1st December only you are cancelled. So the last return that you can file, let us say it was cancelled on 11 December. Then for 10 days of December, you can file return when you were registered. But for remaining period of the December, you cannot file return. So the day on which you are cancelled, after that period, you cannot file your returns. But let us say my November 25 return was pending. I got cancelled in December 25. Then in Jan 25, can I file the pending return of November 25? My registration got cancelled in December. November return was pending. So can I now file my November pending return in Jan 26 after being cancelled? The answer is yes. After cancellation, you cannot file return for the period when you are cancelled. But after cancellation, for the period before cancellation, you can still file your pending returns and you can still pay all of your liabilities that are before cancellation. Done, ma'am. This was all important. Now this all you can just self-read, that from the date on which suspension starts, etc. And this all things I am not reading, but I explained you in all the discussion that we just now did. Procedure is very simple. You have to do other authentication, then you apply, and based on your application, officer will cancel you. And if you are cancelling, then all the ITCs that you have to reverse, of course, because an unregistered person cannot have any ITC under GST. So it is all very simple. If department initiates cancellation suo motu, they will give you a show cause notice, then you reply, and after your reply it will be decided whether you will be cancelled or you will not be cancelled. And the entire matter was that you were not furnishing your returns. If officer issued you a show cause notice for cancellation because you did not file your returns, then first you file all the pending returns and intimate the officer that I have filed my returns. Now no problem. So they will automatically drop the proceedings. So this all things you can just self-read for once. Nothing is important. What was important from section 29? I have covered everything. And now, Uima, what happened, ma'am? Kaata laga, Uima, no. Uima because my registration is cancelled. Uima because my registration is cancelled, and therefore section 30 talks about revocation of cancellation. Section 30 talks about revocation of cancellation. Now, most important thing, if you had yourself applied for cancellation, you cannot go for revocation. What is this masti going on with department? First of all, I only apply that I want to get my registration cancelled. Then I only apply that please revoke my cancellation. That is not possible. Only and only if proper officer suo motu cancelled your registration, then only you can go and apply for please officer do not cancel me and revoke my cancellation. Hey, do you understand? This is important, can be asked in MCQ. If registration you only cancelled or your legal hire upon your death went to officer and told to cancel, then you cannot go for revocation. But only when proper officer cancelled my registration suo motu, then I can go and apply for revocation. Ma'am, within how many days? So the day on which proper officer cancelled my registration suo motu, within 90 days plus an extension of 180 days if I can show the sufficient cause. So 90 plus 180 days. I will go and apply for revocation, that please revoke my cancellation and give my registration back to me. The day on which I apply for revocation, within 30 days from there, if officer is satisfied, I make a puppy face. I go and say, officer, please revoke my cancellation. So if he is satisfied with this, if he is satisfied with my puppy face, then he will revoke my cancellation. If he is not satisfied, he will issue me a notice. He'll give me one more chance. So he'll give me a notice. After I get a notice, I will reply within 7 days. Once I reply within next 30 days, officer will finally accept to cancel, to revoke the cancellation or to not revoke the cancellation. Say yes or no. So if I had myself applied for cancellation, I cannot go for revocation. Only if officer cancelled, then the day on which he cancelled, within 90 plus 180 days, I can go for revocation. The day on which I go for revocation, within 30 days, officer will decide if he is satisfied, he'll revoke. If he is not satisfied, he'll issue me a notice. If he issues me a notice, I have to reply, and once I reply, then he will take his final action. Say yes or no, everyone. And this thing I've already explained, that once I get cancelled, no, after that I cannot file any of the pending returns. So let us say I stopped furnishing my returns from Jan 2025. Officer cancelled me from September 25. So officer issued me an order, and this was only my effective date of cancellation, September 25. Then before applying for revocation, I will first file my pending returns from Jan to 25. Because I am cancelled from September. So before September, all the pending returns I can still file. So once I file all the pending returns, then I will apply for revocation. Now let us say I am revoked from November 25. Then for this remaining period, within 30 days from here, I will file the pending returns. Or let us say I got the cancellation order in September 25, effective from Jan only. I stopped filing my returns from Jan, and officer retrospectively cancelled me from Jan 25 only, which means this is only my date of cancellation. After my date of cancellation, I cannot file any return. Then what to do? First, go apply for revocation. The day on which your cancellation is revoked, within 30 days from here, you file all the pending returns for this period. And we finally complete entire revision of composition levy and registration under GST.